In the true spirit continent, the world is filled with heavenly pride, and demons compete. The king's long roar can bring down the stars, while the emperor's flipping hand can cover the sky. Xiao Ye, a young man from a humble background, has been passed down from ancient times. From then on, he was extremely powerful, pushing 10,000 enemies horizontally, breaking through the 9 Wastelands, and burning the 9 heavens in a passionate battle. The invincible battlefield, with genius blood like the sea and demon bones like mountains, Xiao Ye walked forward step by step, reaching the pinnacle and fighting all the way to the world where no one dared to be honored. Our martial artists, we should be resolute in our downfall, decisive in our battles, willing to show gratitude and enmity, and suppress all enemies in the world. One group of true spirit continent. 464262649, full, Autobiography of Xin Kun Xiao Ye. 214560368, with many vacancies, keywords of the novel. Wu Pe Jiu Huang no pop-ups, Wu Pe Jiu Huang TXT complete collection download, Wu Pe Jiu Huang latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Young Xiao Ye. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Young Xiao Ye. In the early morning, when a glimmer of light had just emerged from the sky. More than 30 young girls have already stood at the head of Xiao Ye village, practicing a set of martial arts called Tiger Fist. The roaring fist style swings open the air and looks quite impressive. In the team, a young man with a delicate face and dressed in coarse linen clothes looked very eye-catching. This young man appears to be only around 15 years old, but his martial arts are like Mercury landing, never stopping, and his fire level is more than 1 point higher than others. Even the young coach Xiao Dashan, known for his harshness, showed an extremely rare smile. It's truly Ye Gu. Watching him wield the tiger fist, he's no weaker than Uncle Shan. That's natural. Ye Gu has the ability to refine the 8 realms of the body, and among the younger generation in the village, only Xiao Teng can compare with Ye Gu. Xiao Teng also has the strength of the 8th level of the refining body realm. Do you think he or Ye Gu is stronger? Young man suddenly said. This statement immediately aroused the interest of others. Martial arts starts from the realm of refining the body, mainly focusing on refining the body, divided into 1 to 9 levels. Most of the younger generation in the village only stay at around 6 levels of refining the body. Xiao Teng's current strength is not because his father is the captain of the beast hunting team and can enjoy cultivation resources. However, Ye Gu is practicing alone. How can he compare with Ye Gu? A young girl retorted. I can't say that. After all, Xiao Teng also has the ability to refine his body 8 times, so he may not be weaker than Ye Gu, said a young man leisurely. Xiao Teng and I, who is stronger? Listening to everyone's discussion, Xiao Ye wiped away the sweat from his head and smiled slightly. He has heard these words countless times. He and Xiao Teng are known as the 2 most outstanding younger generations in the village, and it is inevitable that they will be compared together. If it were in the past, Xiao Teng was indeed qualified to be his opponent, but everyone didn't know that last night, he had already broken through to the 9th level of the cultivation realm. Just this news, Xiao Ye has not yet made a hasty announcement, only Xiao Dashan knows. Humph, everyone wants to be punished, right? Xiao Dashan was a robust man with lightning-like eyes. He swept over the young girls who were discussing passionately, causing them to shiver and obediently continue practicing boxing. As a junior coach, Xiao Dashan is known for being strict in the village, so they naturally dare not confront him. At this moment, a tall young man standing in the queue was looking at Xiao Ye with a resentful expression on his face. He is exactly Xiao Teng, the best among the younger generation in the village, and he is on par with Xiao Ye, who has never broken through before, to refine his body 8 times. My strength is not inferior to yours, why do others always think that I am not as good as you? Xiao Teng stared at Xiao Ye, his heart filled with resentment. If we talk about who Xiao Teng hates the most in Xiao Ye village, it is obviously Xiao Ye. Xiao Teng's father is the captain of the hunting team in Xiao Ye village, and he gains the most benefits every time. He often exchanges various medicinal herbs and vigorously cultivates him. However, Xiao Ye's family conditions were the worst in the entire village, even eating very little meat. In such a situation, Xiao Ye can be on par with him, and many villagers secretly discuss that Xiao Ye is the first genius of Xiao family village. How can Xiao Teng not resent this? Humph, when my dad buys a body refining pill and allows me to break through to the 9th level of body refining, I will defeat you in front of the whole village and let everyone know. I am the first genius of Xiaojia village. Xiao Ye and the team was practicing Tiger Fist, his mind churning. My strength, although ranked first among the younger generation in Xiaojia village, is not enough. If I cannot enter the Chongyang Gate and obtain the miraculous elixir, I cannot cure my father's hidden illness. Xiao Ye remembered her impoverished family situation and secretly clenched her fist. His father Xiao Yang suffered an accident, with all his meridians broken. He went from a powerful warrior to a sickly seedling plagued by illness, which cannot be cured without a miraculous cure. However, Xiaojia village is located in Qingyang town, the Black Dragon Kingdom, and is a barren land. Where can there be a miraculous medicine? By chance, he learned from ancient texts in the village about martial arts holy sites like Chongyang Gate. The Chongyang Gate is one of the most powerful sects in the Black Dragon Kingdom, with over 10,000 disciples and many famous powerhouses. It is rumored that there are miraculous medicines inside the gate that can repair the meridians of martial artists. Every 3 years, the Chongyang sect selects a group of new disciples to join and replenish their fresh blood. Chongyang Gate is a holy land of martial arts, and every time a disciple is selected, the entire youth of the Black Dragon Kingdom will go there. The Black Dragon Kingdom has a vast territory and abundant resources, with countless children from prestigious families. They have been using medicinal herbs to assist in refining their bodies since childhood, breaking through to the 9th level of refining, which is not difficult. Xiao Ye was filled with pressure in his heart. He knew very well that the children of prestigious families had a much higher starting point than him. With the strength of refining 9 levels of body, the hope of passing the entry-level assessment of the Chongyang sect is slim. When the younger generation in the village stared at the title of the first genius, Xiao Ye had already set his sights on the entire Black Dragon Kingdom. To enter the double 9th gate steadily, unless I can break through to the heavenly realm after tomorrow. Xiao Ye whispered, but breaking through to the heavenly realm after tomorrow is really too difficult. When the body is refined to a certain level, true qi will be derived from the body, which is the acquired state. The postnatal realm and the refining realm are two completely different realms. Even beginners in the postnatal realm can instantly kill a large group of refining realm warriors with a wave of their hand, and the two are completely incomparable. But it's very difficult to break through to the postnatal realm. 200 households, big and small, have been practicing martial arts for generations in Xiaojia village, but there are only a few martial artists in the postnatal realm, and they all step into it after the age of 30. It is precisely because there are several postnatal warriors sitting in the village that Xiaojia village has become one of the strong villages in Qingyang town. Xiao Ye and Xiao Teng, as the most outstanding young people in the village, speculate that they will not be able to break through to the postnatal realm until they are at least 20 years old. If my strange illness could break out again, maybe I could break through to the postnatal realm. Xiao Ye suddenly grinned. He has a secret that others don't know. At the age of 9, he developed a strange illness that caused him excruciating pain every time it broke out. But every time he fell ill, his cultivation speed would increase strangely, which allowed him to suppress Xiao Teng, who enjoyed various medicinal herbs, with his poor family background. Last night, the strange illness broke out for the 3rd time, causing him to break through to the 9th level of physical cultivation in one breath. Of course, Xiao Ye dare not disclose this secret, otherwise he will definitely be treated as a monster. Quickly, amidst the cheers of practicing boxing, the whole morning had passed. That's it for today, disband. Xiao Dashan said in a loud voice. Upon hearing these words, the younger generation of Xiao Ye village immediately cheered and dispersed like birds and beasts. Xiao Ye. Xiao Dashan walked towards Xiao Ye with a smile on his face. Among the younger generation in Xiao Ye village, only Xiao Ye could receive such treatment from him. Keep up the good work, break through to the post-natal realm as soon as possible, and bring glory to the village. Upon learning that Xiao Ye had already broken through the 9th level of body refining, his expectations for him greatly increased. He was curious to know if Xiao Ye could break through to the postnatal realm before the age of 20. Unfortunately, the village chief is still in seclusion, otherwise I would have told him about the elderly and made him happy. Xiao Dashan sighed before waving his hand and leaving. Xiao Ye returned home and after hastily having a meal, he practiced Tiger Fist in his yard. There is only 1 year left for the entry-level assessment of Chongyang Gate, and he must seize the time to cultivate. The martial arts in the world are divided into 9 levels, and this set of Tiger Fist is only the most basic martial arts, not even a first-level one, but it has an extraordinary effect on refining the body. It is the martial arts mainly practiced by the younger generation of Xiaojiakan. Cough. From inside, a middle-aged man with a sickly pale face walked out, and it was Xiao Ye's father, Xiao Yang. Looking at her father's appearance, Xiao Ye's face was even more worried. Knowing Xiao Ye's concern, Xiao Yang waved his hand and said with some anticipation, "My injury is not a problem, but it's you. Are you confident about the selection of the Chongyang Gate in a year?" As a father, he naturally hopes that his child can stand out. Upon hearing this, Xiao Ye smiled brightly and said, "Dad, don't worry, I have full confidence." Faced with her father's expectations, Xiao Ye lied. However, with Xiao Yang's insight, he immediately saw through Xiao Ye's lack of confidence, but he didn't point it out either. He walked into the room with a lonely figure. "Dad, don't worry, I will definitely enter the Chongyang Gate and find a miraculous medicine to help you recover your strength." Looking at his father's back, Xiao Ye slowly clenched his fist. His father used to be ranked as the strongest in the postnatal realm, except for the village chief. But because all the meridians are broken, even the strength of refining the body realm cannot be exerted. Although Xiao Yang usually doesn't say it on his lips, the desolation he inadvertently reveals has always been remembered by Xiao Ye in his heart. Bang! At this moment, the gate of the courtyard was pushed open, and a young man hurriedly ran in, panting and saying, "Brother Yi, Lu Yi has returned from the Chongyang Gate and is now at the village chief's house." Boom! Upon hearing the 3 words Lu Yi, Xiao Ye's mind was filled with a roar, and the emotions hidden deep in her heart erupted like a mountain flood. Lu Yi was a baby girl adopted by Xiaojia village and grew up with Xiao Ye, childhood sweetheart. The people in the village often joke about the two of them, saying that they will get married when they reach adulthood. Although it was half joking, Xiao Ye's parents had long regarded Lu Yi as their future daughter-in-law. But 2 years ago, he was noticed by the elders who were traveling outside the Chongyang Gate and directly brought back to the sect for cultivation, and never returned. It can be said that Xiao Ye's desire to enter the Chongyang Gate is partly due to Lu Yi. The relationship between childhood sweethearts is indeed profound. Xiao Ye thought he had to enter the Chongyang Gate to see Lu Yi, but he didn't expect her to come back. The girl who left him for 2 years has finally returned. Xiao Ye suppressed his excitement and quickly ran towards the village chief's house. Pink and tender new book, please take care of it. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Proud Oath. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Proud Oath. In Xiaojia village, a green brick house, many villagers stand here. Haven't seen you in 3 years, you're becoming more and more beautiful. Xiao Dashan's voice was loud, looking at the girl in front of him. The girl was around 14 years old, dressed in a purple gauze skirt, with bright eyes and white teeth, graceful, elegant, which caught the attention of the young people inside the room. Uncle Dashan laughed, Lu Yi smiled slightly. Beside her stood a young man in a white robe carrying a long sword. The young man was around 16 years old, tall and brave, with a rebellious expression on his eyebrows, disdainful of the villagers inside the house. Who is this? Xiao Dashan looked at the young man in a white robe. He is my senior brother, named Xiao Qian. He will accompany me back to the village to visit relatives this time, Lu Yi explained with a smile. Chongyang sect disciple. The villagers in the house were taken aback and immediately looked over curiously. The disciples of Chongyang Gate were all talented figures, not comparable to the younger generation in the village. Humph. Xiao Qian, a young man in a white robe, said arrogantly. Ime, stop talking nonsense to these rural bumpkins and act quickly. A country bumpkin. This harsh title made many villagers breathe a sigh of anger, immediately getting angry and glaring at Xiao Qian. Xiao Dashan's face also became very ugly. Senior brother Xiao Qian, don't do this. Lu Yi gently shook her head and apologized to everyone. Uncles and uncles, I'm coming back to visit your family this time to repay your nurturing kindness. I'll give you this body refining pill. Lu Yi took out a brocade box and carefully opened it. Inside, there were 3 emerald green pills lying, and a strange fragrance wafted out, which shook her spirits. Refining pill. Xiao Dashan suddenly lost his voice and excitedly took it over. Upon hearing Xiao Dashan's exclamation, everyone in the room widened their eyes and stared passionately at the brocade box. Especially Xiao Teng inside the house, with a greedy expression on his face. Body refining pill can greatly increase the speed of body refining for martial artists in the body refining realm, and its value is not cheap. Xiao Teng has been thinking about it day and night for a long time. How can he not be excited now? What a group of country bumpkins, 3 body refining pills that make you happy like this. The young man in the white robe, Xiao Qian, sneered with a mocking expression on his face. No matter how kind the villagers are, they can't help it now. Kid, what are you talking about? The villagers stared at the white-robed boy with an unpleasant expression. Faced with the angry gazes of the crowd, Xiao Qian sneered and said, Today I came with Ime to inform you that we have 3 body refining pills to buy out the favor of raising Ime. Ime has nothing to do with you anymore. I don't want to see you, you rural bumpkins, entangle Ime again in the future. Ime has the cultivation of our Chongyang Gate, and the future is limitless. You rural bumpkins can't afford to climb high. Xiao Qian, a young man in a white robe, spoke word by word with an extremely arrogant attitude, completely igniting the anger of the villagers. 3 body refining pills, buying out the grace of nurturing. People are not plants and trees, who can be ruthless. Lu Yi grew up in Xiaojia village from a young age, and the villagers had long regarded her as a part of the village and a family member, never treating her unfairly. How can we measure this kind of family relationship with the body refining pill? Why did Xiao Qian make such a decision instead of Lu Yi? Even if it doesn't matter, does it include me? At this moment, a voice came and everyone heard it. They looked around and saw a handsome young man wearing coarse linen clothes walking into the room. The person who came is Xiao Ye. When he heard Xiao Qian's words outside, his mood instantly sank to the bottom. Oh. Who are you? Xiao Qian looked at Xiao Ye and asked arrogantly. Xiao Ye did not answer, his gaze fixed on Lu Yi for a moment. The girl who had kept him waiting for 3 years, what he needed was Lu Yi's answer. Brother Xiao. Lu Yi's expression was complex, lightly biting her red lips. Looking at the young girl close by, Xiao Ye's heart trembled lightly. He took a deep breath and loudly said, Tell me, are you coming back this time to draw a clear line with us? Xiao Ye's delicate face carried a hint of sharpness, leaving Lu Yi unsure of how to answer for a moment. It seems that you're a bit confused about reality. Xiao Qian, a young man in a white robe, stepped out with his hands behind his back and sneered, I've heard Sister Yi mention you before. You're the first genius in Xiaojia village. But as a genius, in my eyes, you're not even as good as a dog or shit. As Xiao Qian's words fell, a vast and surging aura erupted from him, sweeping several villagers beside him and violently hitting the wall, spewing out a mouthful of blood. Innate realm. Feeling the vastness of the atmosphere, Xiao Dashan trembled fiercely in his heart and looked at Xiao Qian incredulously. Above the acquired realm is the innate realm. The martial artists in this realm contain innate true qi in their bodies, which can attack in isolation and can be considered as enemies of 10,000 people. They can fight against thousands of soldiers and horses, and smash mountains with one punch. Xiao Qian appears to be only 16 years old, but his strength has reached an innate level. You should know that there has never been a born martial artist in the entire Qinyang town. A 16-year-old innate warrior, such qualifications are too terrifying. Is this the true genius? As Xiao Qian's breath erupted, the house fell into a deathly silence, and many villagers couldn't help but tremble, their faces filled with fear. In front of Xiao Qian, they deeply realized their own insignificance. Boom! Under such a strong aura, Xiao Ye was hit hard, his face pale as paper, his body unsteady, and he felt suffocated. How can a useless person like you deserve Ime? I don't even need to do anything, I can make you kneel down. Xiao Qian gave a fierce smile, his whole body's breath climbing to the peak, causing the room to shake. Kaka kaka. At this moment, the ground beneath Xiao Ye's feet was shattered, and the fierce aura oppressed him like a mountain, causing Xiao Ye's knees to bend suddenly and even kneel down. One cultivates 9 levels of body, while the other is an innate realm, the difference is really huge. Xiao Qian had a fierce smile. Compared to defeating Xiao Ye with a wave of his hand, he was more willing to trample on Xiao Ye's self-esteem, especially in front of Lu Yi. This ignorant country bumpkin actually wants to touch Lu Yi too. Ah! Xiao Ye let out a low growl, her eyes red, and she resisted the pressure with a strong resistance. Her bones kept creaking, and her heart was filled with anger. He had no grudge against Xiao Qian, but was publicly humiliated by the other party, and in the most humiliating way, how could Xiao Ye bear it? Today you are stronger than me and can oppress me. When I surpass you in strength, I will double my reward. Xiao Ye gritted his teeth and said. Just because of you, do you still want to surpass me? Xiao Qian laughed heartily, his face full of ridicule. You can only look up to me in this lifetime. The gap between Xiao Ye and him, one day, one place, coupled with his resources at the Chongyang Gate, Xiao Ye couldn't even catch up with him by flattering. Xiao Qian's arrogant appearance was reflected in Xiao Ye's pupils, causing a hint of madness in his heart. What about geniuses? 30 years in Hedong and 30 years in Heshi, Xiao Qian was older than him. Who could predict that he would not have such cultivation at the age of 16? Alright. Lu Yi couldn't bear it any longer and reached out to stop Xiao Qian. When Lu Yi's gaze turned to Xiao Ye, her eyes were already cold. Brother Xiao, the previous agreement between Yi and you was just a child's play. The true spirit continent is vast, so vast that you cannot imagine it. And you, the first genius of Xiaojia village, at Chongyang Gate is a joke. I'm afraid you won't be able to pass the entry-level selection of Chongyang Gate even a year later. We are already from 2 different worlds, and I hope you don't think about Yi anymore. Lu Yi lifted her snow-white chin lightly, as if a deity was sentencing, with a look of pity in her eyes. She is sympathizing with her former frog in the well, and also sympathizing with the ignorance of the villagers. At the Chongyang Gate, due to her outstanding appearance, she was pursued by too many geniuses, none of whom was much more outstanding than Xiao Ye. Xiao Ye, after all, is just a young man from the mountains and fields, people from 2 worlds. Xiao Ye's face showed despair, and the remaining trace of luck in her heart turned into nothingness. Originally, the feelings of childhood sweethearts were so pale and unbearable in the powerful true spirit continent. Lu Yi's words were like a knife cutting through his heart, causing his fists to suddenly clench, his nails piercing deep into his palms, and his soul trembling. Xiao Ye closed his eyes slightly, and when he opened them again, all his emotions were hidden deep in his heart. Thinking of you. Don't worry, I'm not the kind of person who shamelessly looks down on me. Xiao Ye said in a deep voice. Lu Yi was slightly surprised, as Xiao Ye's temperament was far stronger than that of an average teenager. For some reason, the other party's resolute expression caused a hint of dissatisfaction in her heart. Why did Xiao Ye give up on her so easily, Lu Yi, without any extreme actions? Uncle Hong's meridians are broken all over his body. I specifically sought a mending pill from the sect to help Uncle Hong recover, even if it's compensation for you. Lu Yi flipped her jade hand and took out another brocade box, looking arrogantly at Xiao Ye. She wanted to see this strong-willed teenager bow down to her. Bu Mai Dan. Upon hearing Lu Yi's words, Xiao Ye trembled all over and stared at the brocade box. That's a pill that can make him think day and night. It's right in front of him now, as long as he reaches out his hand, he can get it. Xiao Ye pulled a self-deprecating smile at the corner of his mouth and said, "You are truly a disciple of the Chongyang sect. You can easily take out the miraculous medicine I long for. The so-called sympathy is just that you are pitying me." Lu Yi's eyes were cold and she lightly tapped her chin, saying, "You can also think that if you miss this opportunity, you will never be able to restore your father's strength for life." Xiao Ye's breath froze, his gaze turned cold, and his chest seemed to be burning with thousands of flames. This complete contempt is like stepping heavily on his self-esteem. If he accepts the Bu Mai Dan, does it not mean that he allows the other party to arrogantly trample on his self-esteem? But if refused, it would be like giving up an opportunity for Xiao Yang to recover, which is unfilial. For a moment, Xiao Ye fell silent and fell into a dilemma. Take the pill and roll away, my father and son, you don't need it. Just then, a pale middle-aged man walked into the room and stood beside Xiao Ye. Dad. Xiao Ye's heart trembled as he looked at the majestic figure blocking in front of him. The villagers inside the house looked over in unison. Since Xiao Yang's meridians were shattered, they have rarely appeared in the sight of villagers. Uncle Xiao Yang. Lu Yi was taken aback and finally bowed to Xiao Yang. You are a genius disciple of the Chongyang sect, but my son is from the mountains and wilderness. It's normal for you to look down on him, Xiao Yang said indifferently. But don't forget that you, Lu Yi, also walked out of this village back then. Xiao Yang's voice suddenly became sharp. If I weren't in our Xiaojia village, you wouldn't be able to stand here now and trample on my child's self-esteem recklessly. Xiao Yang's words made Lu Yi's delicate body tremble. Her clear eyes swept around, only to find that the originally friendly villagers had a cold expression on their faces, so unfamiliar. Am I wrong? Lu Yi's eyes became blurred, but soon turned into determination. She is a genius disciple of the Chongyang Gate, just a small Xiaojia village, and does not have the qualification to become her own bond, including Xiao Ye. Since that's the case, Uncle Yang, then I'll say goodbye. Lu Yi put away the brocade box and drifted away. Humph, a group of country bumpkins. Zhao Qian coldly glanced at everyone and chased after Lu Yi. Xiao Ye looked at Xiao Yang with a choked expression, her eyes turning red. He is well aware of the great temptation that restoring strength poses for his father. But because of him, Xiao Yang simply refused this temptation and didn't even glance at the Bu Mai Dan. The love for protecting calves is comparable to the deep sea. The majestic figure is as tall as in childhood. Pop it. Xiao Ye, with red eyes and a stubborn expression on her face, knelt down on both knees and gave Xiao Yang a heavy kowtow. Dad, my child is unfilial. Because of me, you rejected the Bu Mai Dan. But the child swears, I will definitely enter the Chongyang Gate and personally fetch this pill for you. I will prove to you that what others can do, even children can do it. Xiao Ye's voice was loud and clear, reaching everyone's ears. Well, Dad believes you, Xiao Yang's lips curved into a smile. My son Xiao Yang doesn't need to accept anyone else's pity. Speaking, Xiao Yang stepped forward and helped Xiao Ye up. The father and son smiled at each other, and a warm current flowed in Xiao Ye's heart. Alright, now it's time to discuss how to allocate these 3 body refining pills. At this moment, a voice sounded out of place. At the same time, a wild figure emerged from the crowd and walked to the center of the room. The new book is pink and tender, urgently needing everyone's care. End of this chapter. What is justice in Chapter 3? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 What is justice? This is a strong man, dressed in animal skin, with high and bulging muscles, and sharp eyes like knives. Unlike Xiao Dashan, he has an additional domineering aura on his body. Xiao Ba. Xiao Ye's face darkened as she looked at the newcomer. Xiao Ba is Xiao Teng's father and now the captain of the hunting team in Xiaojia village. He holds real power in the village and possesses the strength of the 7 heavens after tomorrow. Speaking of which, there is still some resentment between Xiao Ba and Xiao Hong, because when they were young, they always regarded each other as opponents. If it weren't for Xiao Yang's broken meridians, he wouldn't have been able to sit as the captain of the beast hunting team. You father and son pretend to be aloof and disdain pills. But those 3 body refining pills belong to the village, and you have no right to make decisions, said Xiao Ba coldly. He has been here a long time ago, but he has never made a sound. Xiao Teng followed behind Xiao Ba with a proud smile. Now that the village chief is out in seclusion, the most influential person in the village is his father, so he is determined to obtain those 3 body refining pills. The villagers inside the house looked at each other and all nodded in the end. Although Xiao Yang's father and son refused the Mai Xiu pill, there are still 3 body refining pills in Xiao Dashan's hands. 3 body refining pills are enough to increase the strength of a junior in the body refining realm several times. But how should we allocate it? Xiao Ba carried both hands on his back and said, the village chief is in seclusion, and I am in charge of all the affairs in the village. These 3 body refining pills should be given to the most qualified young people in the village to take. My son Xiao Teng, who is only 16 years old, has the ability to refine his body into the 8 heavens. I suggest giving him these 3 body refining pills. Xiao Ba ignored Xiao Ye's presence directly, and his sharp gaze swept across the entire scene. Every villager who was caught in Xiao Ba's gaze trembled in his heart and finally lowered his head. Xiao Baron, as his name suggests, is very domineering in his actions. Due to his fear of his status and strength, many villagers dare not speak out in anger. Upon hearing this, Xiao Ye's anger burned in his heart. Xiao Ba wanted to take advantage of the village chief's absence to exercise authoritarian power and swallow the body refining pill alone. Most qualified. It's really ridiculous. If Xiao Teng had not received numerous medicinal herbs to assist in refining his body, how could he have the current strength? In Xiao Ye's eyes, Xiao Teng is just a second-generation ancestor. If Xiao Ba really thinks for the sake of the village and calmly discusses the ownership of the body refining pills, Xiao Ye will definitely give up these 3 body refining pills, because he will definitely not touch the things left by Lui. I agree to let Xiao Teng take the body refining pill. I agree too. After a while, a villager was the first to speak up, which immediately aroused everyone's agreement. Xiao Ye glanced around and found that the villagers who were closest to Xiao Ba were the most positive, with even greater anger in their hearts. Are you blind? Can Xiao Teng compare with Xiao Ye? Can't you see who the first genius of Xiaojia village is? Xiao Dashan jumped out, his face full of anger, and cursed loudly. Dashan, don't get excited. Xiao Ye and Xiao Teng are the 2 most outstanding young people in the village, with equal strength. We didn't make any mistake in choosing Xiao Teng, did we? A villager stood up and said. No distinction between top and bottom. Xiao Dashan was taken aback for a moment, and then he remembered that everyone didn't know that Xiao Ye had broken through to the 9th level of body refining. It is not wrong for villagers to make such a choice without knowing the situation. After all, the true spirit continent speaks with its strength. And who would offend Xiao Ba for the sake of a useless Xiao Yang? Since everyone agrees with my suggestion, please let the unrelated people leave. A hint of sarcasm appeared at the corner of Xiao Ba's mouth, and his gaze turned to Xiao Yang. His meaning is very obvious, Xiao Yang, it is unrelated to others. In the eyes of everyone, there was pity, sympathy, and regret. The strongest person in Xiaojia village, except for the village chief, fell into such a field. Yi let's go home. Xiao Yang remained silent, his anger flashing in his eyes, and then he turned around with a lonely figure, heading towards the outside world. Since his meridians were shattered, he has become an indispensable figure in Xiaojia village, and today, he has once again experienced this feeling. Looking at Xiao Yang's lonely figure, Xiao Ye's heart suddenly tightened. Dad, I'm not leaving. Xiao Ye stubbornly said, and then he walked slowly into the room, looking at Xiao Ba with a cold gaze. Master, you're really a good master. At this moment, his suppressed emotions erupted completely, and he woke up like a fierce beast. Bold. The result of the discussion among the elders in the village, how can you allow a younger generation to question it? Before Xiao Ba could speak, the villagers standing next to him shouted ahead of him. The result of elders' discussion. Faced with oppression, Xiao Ye stood straight like a javelin and laughed heartily, then this result is really fair. Xiao Ye's laughter echoed inside the house, making many villagers feel ashamed and afraid to look at him. Staring at the silent crowd, Xiao Ye's eyes flickered with a cold light and he said, since this is what you believe to be fair, then I will personally overthrow it. After speaking, Xiao Ye suddenly turned around and pointed at Xiao Teng, saying, Xiao Teng, today I, Xiao Ye, challenge you. Xiao Ye challenges Xiao Teng. This sudden change made everyone a little overwhelmed. Do you think Xiao Teng is more qualified than me? Let me show you today who is the first genius of Xiaojia village. Xiao Ye clenched his fists slowly, and his full blood ran through his body. He wants to reclaim his glory. He wants to seek respect for his father's response. Xiao Ba furrowed his brow slightly. Xiao Ye and Xiao Teng were both practicing the 8 levels of body refining, with similar strength differences. They probably didn't have 50 moves, making it difficult to determine the winner. After a moment of contemplation, Xiao Ba coldly said, since you question the outcome of the discussion, I'll give you a chance. If you can defeat Xiao Teng with 10 moves, I'll hand over 3 body refining pills to you personally. 10 moves. All the villagers showed a surprised expression. Xiao Ba's proposal of such harsh conditions was completely bullying Xiao Ye. Unless he had an absolute advantage, how could Xiao Ye defeat Xiao Teng in 10 moves? Xiao Ba said he was giving Xiao Ye a chance, but in fact, it was just a passing act, because the ending was already predetermined. Xiao Ye was extremely angry and laughed back. The village chief was not around, and Xiao Ba really wanted to cover the sky with one hand. Unfortunately, he miscalculated. 10 moves are too many, 1 move is enough. Xiao Ye, dressed in a robe, hunted and strode towards Xiao Teng. 1 move. Xiao Teng stared at Xiao Ye as he walked towards him, with an angry expression on his face. The other person was contemptuous of him. I want to see how you can defeat me with 1 move. Xiao Teng roared angrily, stomping his feet and charging towards Xiao Ye. Tiger Fist. Xiao Teng's right fist exploded, causing the air to howl. The fist wind lifted Xiao Ye's black hair. Faced with Xiao Teng's attack, Xiao Ye coldly uttered 3 words from her mouth. Give it to me, get lost. Boom. As the words rolled out, Xiao Teng felt a strong wind rushing towards his face. An unbeatable force overwhelmed him, causing his right fist bone to break and blood to spurt out from his mouth, crashing into the wall and fainting. At that moment, the house fell into a dead silence, and the villagers' hearts beat hard, their faces full of dullness. The battle between the two most outstanding young people in the village ended just at the beginning. Xiao Ye, surprisingly, he defeated Xiao Teng with just one move. So his strength in everyone's hearts, there is a vague speculation. I forgot to tell everyone that Xiao Ye has already broken through to the 9th level of body refining. Xiao Dashan smiled and walked out, looking proudly at Xiao Ba, whose face was full of shock. 14-year-old 9-fold body refining. Upon hearing Xiao Dashan's words, everyone couldn't help but take a cold breath and their gaze towards Xiao Ye changed. Although Xiao Ye has only elevated one realm, the meaning it represents is completely different. The earlier you break through the path of martial arts, the more talented you are, and the higher your future achievements will be. Throughout the history of Xiaojia village, the earliest warrior to reach the 9th level of physical cultivation was at the age of 20. But Xiao Ye has done it now. At the age of 14, practicing 9 levels of physical fitness is unprecedented in the history of Xiaojia village. With Xiao Ye's qualifications, it is not impossible to break through to the innate realm in the future. The reason why Xiao Teng has the current strength is the result of Xiao Ba's strong cultivation, while Xiao Ye, on his own, has been practicing hard to the 9th level of physical cultivation. Just this point alone, Xiao Teng is far from being comparable to Xiao Ye. Now, do you still think that I'm not as good as Xiao Teng? Is the outcome of the discussion fair? Xiao Ye said indifferently. Suddenly, the villagers inside the house were all speechless, especially the few villagers who had just stood on Xiao Ba's side, their cheeks were even hotter. Xiao Ye, with his strength, fiercely slapped them back and told them what the truth was. Xiao Ye, it was Uncle's fault just now. Uncle apologizes to you. Yeah, Xiao Ye, don't be angry. We have no other intention. Suddenly, several villagers felt very embarrassed and stood up. Kid, with some qualifications, you dare to harm my son. I will make you pay a heavy price. Xiao Ba recovered from shock, and behind him, the aura of the heavenly realm's 7 heavens erupted, walking toward Xiao Ye. Xiao Ba, my son has broken through the 9th level of physical training at the age of 14. Are you sure you want to take action against him? At this moment, Xiao Yang's calm voice poured down like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing Xiao Ba's anger. Yes, with the potential demonstrated by Xiao Ye, he will definitely become a treasure of Xiao family village. Even if he and Xiao Teng are abandoned, the village will not abandon Xiao Ye. If he dares to confront Xiao Ye's opponent, it will definitely cause public anger. Xiao Ba's expression was uncertain, looking at Xiao Yang. You're a big surprise for Dad, kid. Xiao Yang smiled at the corner of his mouth, he was really happy. With the qualifications demonstrated by Xiao Ye, no one in Xiaojia village dares to underestimate or ignore their father and son. Humph. Xiao Ba's face darkened as he shook his hand and turned to leave. Wait. Xiao Ye suddenly spoke, Uncle Ba, I remember saying that if I could win 10 moves, you would hand me the body refining pill yourself. Xiao Ba trembled all over, his eyes blazing with anger. Xiao Ye, don't go too far. Too much. Xiao Ye sneered coldly. Uncle Ba, did you ever think you were too much when you were dictatorial and ignored me? When you said my father was an unrelated person, did you ever think you were too much? Xiao Ba was speechless. He stared at Xiao Ye for a long time, then without a word, took the brocade box from Xiao Dashan's hand and handed it to Xiao Ye. The villagers sighed in their hearts that Xiao Ba, such a domineering person, was forced to bow down. Looking at the brocade box in front of her, Xiao Ye's heart suddenly hurt. This was something left by Lu Yi. Chongyang Gate, I will definitely enter, Xiao Ye whispered to himself. He picked up the brocade box and threw it at Xiao Ba's feet, abandoning the precious body refining pill like a clog. Amidst the astonishment of the crowd, Xiao Ye had already turned around and walked towards the outside, leaving a stern voice. I, Xiao Ye, disdain to take this pill. Xiao Ba's face changed suddenly. He was a person who held real power in the village and brought the pill to Xiao Ye, but it was thrown at his feet by the other party. This is not giving him face at all. If he picks up the elixir, doesn't it mean he's Xiao Ba? Even the things that Xiao Ye disdains are as precious as treasures. But if he doesn't pick it up, his son will never have a chance to surpass Xiao Ye in his lifetime. Okay, great. Xiao Ba was so angry that he trembled all over. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Tower of Time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The Tower of Time. Xiao Family Village, Xiao Ye's home. Xiao Yang and Luo Milan sat in the hall, worried as they looked towards the tightly closed door. Since Xiao Ye returned from the village chief's house, he has been locked in his room for an hour. Alas, Yi Er may seem strong, but this incident has caused him too much harm, said Xiao Yang. Xiao Ye's emotions towards Lu Yi are very clear to him as a father. Brother Yang, our son will definitely be fine, Romlan comforted. In the room, Xiao Ye sat on the bed, his thoughts in chaos. Thinking of Lu Yi, he felt a piercing pain in his heart. Years of obsession have been crushed by reality, but how can childhood sweethearts be forgotten day and night? In his mind, Lu Yi cuddled up in his arms in the past, her charming appearance appearing one after another, but in the end, they were all replaced by Lu Yi's cold and heartless appearance. Heartbreak, unbearable heartache. The painful feeling, like waves of tide, almost suffocated him. When he was at the village chief's house, he could still suppress this pain in his heart, but now he can no longer suppress it. He wanted to vent his pain with a loud roar, but in order not to let his parents outside the door worry, he could only grit his teeth tightly and prevent himself from making any noise. Due to the force, a hint of desolate blood seeped out between the teeth, slowly flowing down from the corner of the mouth. Xiao Ye's expression was bleak, breathing heavily and grabbing her heart with her hand, as if this was the only way to relieve the pain. Puzzy. Suddenly, Xiao Ye spat out a mouthful of blood. Under the strong pressure of Zhao Qian, a young man in a white robe, he was already injured. Coupled with the intense fluctuations in his emotions, his injuries erupted. Looking at the blood on the ground, Xiao Ye's eyes became eerie. The arrogant young man who brought him humiliation and forced him to kneel down wanted to defeat him with his own hands and regain his dignity. He wants everyone who looks down on him to regret his actions. But my strength. Xiao Ye's hands trembled slightly. After calming down, he felt powerless about the current situation. Zhao Qian is a towering innate martial artist, cultivated by the Chongyang Gate, but he is a young man in the mountains who has not even stepped into the postnatal realm. The gap between the two is enough to make people despair. I'm not willing. Xiao Ye had a stubborn expression on her face and jumped out of bed to practice her martial arts in the room. Even if that gap is big, he will still strive to smooth it out. At this moment, his thirst for power reached its peak. Xiao Ye tirelessly practiced the tiger fist, while at the same time, due to emotional fluctuations, his heart was beating violently, quickly exceeding normal levels. Bang, bang, bang. His heart was beating faster and faster, and in the end it was like playing a drum. Oh no, that strange disease is going to break out again. Xiao Ye woke up with a sudden change in expression. The premonition before the onset of that strange disease was the intense beating of the heart. It's okay, if the strange disease breaks out, my cultivation speed will greatly increase. Xiao Ye relaxed and waited for the strange disease to break out. Quickly, Xiao Ye felt a slight unease, as this time his heart was beating more violently than the previous few times. Just as Xiao Ye was feeling a little uneasy, a tearing pain suddenly hit him, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably, and then he let out painful screams. His eyes turned black and he passed out in a coma. In a daze, he saw a small tower with a brilliant glow bursting out of his chest. Is my strange illness caused by this small tower? After the thought flashed through Xiao Ye's mind, his consciousness was engulfed by boundless darkness. When Xiao Ye opened his eyes again, he was shocked to find that he appeared in a space surrounded by a nebula. Those nebulae constantly shatter and rejuvenate, as if experiencing a cycle of brilliance and poignant beauty. I am the ruler of time, worshipped by billions of living beings, but there is also a day of falling in the cycle of the heavenly way. A desolate sigh echoed through the boundless void. What kind of person? Xiao Ye's mind was shaken and he looked around, but he didn't see any figures. The Tower of Time replicates some of my time path. Little one, it's really lucky to have this item. A shadow shrouded in mist walked out of the void and integrated into Xiao Ye's body. Boom! A thought surged into his mind, conveying information. For a long time, Xiao Ye opened his eyes and a strong sense of shock appeared on his face. Little one, work hard. That thought seemed to have exhausted its strength and turned into a speck of starlight, dissipating in the void. According to the message conveyed by this idea, he is currently inside the small tower. This small tower, called the Tower of Time, was refined by the ruler of time and is divided into 5 layers. The first layer has a time flow rate 10 times slower than the outside world. The second layer has a time flow rate 20 times slower than the outside world. Similarly, in the 5th layer, the time flow rate is 50 times slower than the outside world. But regarding the origin of that time master, the information conveyed by that idea has not been revealed at all. The true spirit continent, there is such a treasure. Xiao Ye murmured, his emotions still couldn't calm down because all of this was too shocking. He had never heard of a treasure that could control time. That time master must be the supreme existence, Xiao Ye guessed. The true spirit continent is too vast, and Xiao Ye has not even left Xinyang town. How can he guess the origin of time domination? As for why this pagoda appeared inside his body, he had even less knowledge. But then, Xiao Ye's uncontrollable ecstasy erupted in his heart. If he practices for 10 days on the first floor of the Tower of Time, doesn't it mean that only 1 day has passed for the outside world? What kind of genius cannot catch up with such a significant difference? Moreover, the Tower of Time also has the 2nd to 5th floors. However, according to the information conveyed by the belief, only when he has sufficient strength can he step into the 2nd to 5th layers. For example, on the 2nd level, he can only enter when he becomes an innate warrior. As for the requirements for the 3rd to 5th layers, he is currently unaware. It seems that the strange illness that occurred before led to a significant increase in cultivation speed was because I accidentally came here. Xiao Ye clenched his fist and looked excited. If he still can't pass the Chongyang Gate entrance examination a year later with this Tower of Time, he could be killed by a head-on collision. Zhao Qian, wait, I'm walking towards you step by step. Xiao Ye suddenly swung his tiger fist and started practicing like a fierce tiger. In the house of the Xiao Ye family, a few people were standing, occasionally turning their gaze to the elderly figure standing in the middle. Because of him, he is the current village head of Xiaojia village, Xiao Tianxiong. Has Ye not shown any signs of awakening yet? Xiao Tianxiong furrowed his brows and looked at Xiao Ye lying in bed with his eyes tightly closed. No, the doctor said that Ye's injury was not a big deal, but her consciousness seemed to be in a deep sleep, said Xiao Yang, with a sickly pale face and deep concern. After Xiao Ye let out heart-wrenching screams in the room that day, he has been in a coma for a month now. For the past month, he and Xiao Ye's mother Romlan have been eating and sleeping poorly, fearing that Xiao Ye will remain unconscious. Alas, I finally had such a genius in Xiaojia village, and now. Xiao Tianxiong sighed, his old face filled with heartache. After leaving the country and returning to the village, he found out that Xiao Ye had already broken through the 9th level of body refining. He was overjoyed and hurriedly ran to Xiao Ye's house. Xiao Ye practiced alone and reached the 9th level of physical cultivation at the age of 14. If such a genius grows up, he can definitely lead Xiao family village towards glory. But the news of Xiao Ye falling into a coma seemed to give him a hard blow, leaving him completely stunned. What is the use of such a stunning genius if he remains unconscious? Village chief, you worked hard to run to the ferocious beast forest and killed a dragon snake that was 8 times heavier the day after tomorrow. You brought the dragon snake's blood, but you can't waste it. Xiao Ba followed the village chief, and his gaze flickered slightly as he said. Village chief Xiao Tianxiong said it was seclusion, but in reality, he ran to the ferocious beast forest outside Qingyang town to hunt and kill dragons and snakes. The dragon snake is a powerful and ferocious beast, its blood is as hot as magma, containing powerful energy. The martial artist in the refining realm bathes in their blood, which can increase the chance of breaking through to the acquired realm. Xiao Tianxiong's move is to cultivate a young and talented person among the younger generation, and Xiao Ye is undoubtedly the most suitable candidate. On the day Xiao Tianxiong returned to the village, he handed over the dragon snake blood to Xiao Yang for safekeeping. He waited for Xiao Ye to wake up and let him use it. Upon hearing Xiao Ba's words, Xiao Yang's expression immediately became cold, and his eyes were filled with flames of anger. Xiao Ba, you are bullying people too much. This Xiao Ba, even if he took 3 body refining pills, now he still wants to take away the dragon snake blood that belongs to his son. Once Xiao Ye loses the blood of the dragon and snake, it will be difficult to break through to the postnatal realm. Humph, my son has now broken through to the 9th level of body refining. Apart from Xiao Ye, he is the most qualified to use dragon snake blood. Moreover, the energy of dragon snake blood can be stored for a maximum of 3 months. If it continues, it will not be beneficial to anyone, Xiao Ba snorted coldly. After taking the body refining pill, Xiao Teng recovered from his injuries and broke through to the 9th level of body refining in one fell swoop. You! Xiao Yang was so angry that he trembled all over, causing a hidden illness and coughing violently. A useless person, a living dead person, you father and son are really a perfect match. Seeing Xiao Yang's appearance, Xiao Ba said in a gloomy tone, feeling extremely happy. Alright, shut up. Xiao Tianxiong shouted loudly, his eyes shining like knives as he glanced at the two of them. A strong aura of the 9 heavens after tomorrow erupted, making Xiao Ba's heart tremble and he stopped speaking. Xiao Tianxiong felt restless and walked towards the outside, leaving a sentence. In another month, if Xiao Ye still cannot wake up, the blood of the dragon and snake will belong to Xiao Teng. This sentence made Xiao Yang's face even paler. I'll wait for a month before you send the dragon snake blood with both hands. Seeing that the goal was achieved, Xiao Ba looked up and laughed, then turned around and left with big strides. Xiao Yang suppressed his anger and looked worried at Xiao Ye, who was unconscious. Ye heir, you must wake up. At this moment, no one noticed that a faint light appeared on Xiao Ye's chest, forming the mark of a pagoda, which was extremely mysterious. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Stepping into the day after tomorrow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Stepping into the day after tomorrow in the Tower of Time, there is no day or darkness, only nebulae constantly shattering and rebirth around. Puff. Puff. As Xiao Ye's figure flickered, the wind broke through in waves. With Xiao Ye's hard training, his blood and energy churned incessantly, wandering throughout his body, condensing his body and gradually improving his strength, reaching the late stage of the 9th level of body refining. He has been practicing on the first floor of the Tower of Time for a full 300 days. According to the time flow rate of the first layer, it means that the outside world has only been a month. If outsiders learn that only a month has passed and Xiao Ye's strength has broken through to the late stage of the 9th level of body refining, they will definitely be very shocked. Now, Xiao Ye has fully adapted to the environment of the Time Tower. Here, he doesn't feel hungry, except for rest, he spends all his time practicing. Xiao Ye could feel that he had only entered the Tower of Time, with his physical body still outside. He could even vaguely hear his parents calling out. And with just one thought, he can return to his physical body. But after confirming that consciousness was practicing here, no different from physical cultivation, Xiao Ye cut off the idea of awakening. Dad, Mom, I'll apologize to you when the child breaks through to the postnatal realm. A stubborn expression rose on Xiao Ye's face. After deeply realizing the huge gap between himself and Zhao Qian, he didn't want to waste any time. Moreover, the entrance examination for the Chongyang Gate is approaching, and he will only have a chance to pass if he breaks through to the postnatal realm. On the first floor of the Tower of Time, the young man sweated and continuously used his tiger fist, deepening his understanding of this basic combat technique. 300 days of non-stop practice, this effect is extremely amazing. Xiao Ye was like a fierce tiger leaping, with every move and gesture surrounded by strong energy. Roar! After practicing countless times, Xiao Ye suddenly burst out with a punch, and his fists merged into a ferocious tiger head, triggering a roar that shook the entire field. Bang, bang, bang. As soon as the ferocious tiger head formed, it rushed forward, triggering a series of air bursts, pulling out a wave of air in the void before slowly disappearing. This is the fierce tiger fist technique that Uncle Sean once mentioned. Xiao Ye was stunned, his face full of disbelief. When Xiao Dashan first taught them the tiger fist, he once said that although tiger fist is only a basic combat technique, some talented martial artists, who have practiced it to an extremely advanced level, can understand the tiger fist technique. As soon as the tiger fist is unleashed, it integrates all its strength and unleashes an attack, with power even comparable to that of a first-class combat skill. But there is no warrior who can comprehend the fierce tiger fist technique. The warriors of Xiaojia village have all practiced the tiger fist, but including Xiao Dashan and the village chief, they have not comprehended the tiger fist technique. If I could master the tiger fist, then the time I had to step into the afterlife would be greatly shortened. Xiao Ye's eyes flashed with excitement. He trains his body by practicing tiger fist, and as the power of tiger fist increases, his body training speed will also increase. No, I can't find that feeling anymore. After practicing a few times, Xiao Ye frowned. After trying 500 times, he found the feeling again and unleashed his fierce tiger fist. I must master the tiger fist. Xiao Ye's expression was firm as he continued to practice. This time, he only tried 300 times before unleashing the tiger fist. After practicing hard at the Tower of Time for another half-month, he finally mastered the fierce tiger fist technique and unleashed it with a powerful punch, causing the tiger to roar uncontrollably. Xiao Ye's casual punches were accompanied by fierce tiger punches, causing his qi and blood to surge rapidly, refining his limbs and bones, and his body refining speed was at least 5 times higher than before. This increasingly powerful feeling intoxicated Xiao Ye. There are still 2 months left, which is the end of the year. Before that, I want to break through to the post-natal realm and surprise my parents. Xiao Ye's face was full of confidence. 2 months outside, on the first floor of the Tower of Time, which is 600 days. After comprehending the tiger fist, Xiao Ye had full confidence to break through to the acquired realm before the new year. The new year marks the end of the year and is a grand event in Qingyang town. Meanwhile, on that day, young girls from various villages gathered together to choose their marriage and lifelong partners. And that day also represented Xiao Ye, who was about to turn 15. The postnatal realm at the age of 15. As soon as Xiao Ye thought about it, his heart was filled with excitement. At the age of 15, he entered the realm of posthumous life. Not to mention Xiaojia village, even if we look at the history of Qingyang town, it has never appeared before. Compared to the children of those big families, he is probably not weak at all. What kind of exciting expression would the villagers show if they saw him break through to the post-apocalyptic realm? Xiao Ye is looking forward to it. Continue practicing. Xiao Ye put aside his distractions and started practicing again. In the dead space, only the figure of the young man was flickering, and the unmatched fierce tiger fist erupted, its voice shaking the fields. In the depths of winter, a heavy snowfall fell from the sky, covering the entire town of Qinyang with a layer of silver. Although the weather is cold, the atmosphere in the town is unusually hot, as Qinyang town is about to enter the new year. On this day, any boy or girl in Qinyang town who is over 14 years old will leave the village and choose their preferred partner. Qinyang town is a barren land, and can only be intermarried between villages. In the center of Qinyang town, a high arena has long been set up. Because in a world that values martial arts like the true spirit continent, only by showcasing exceptional martial arts can one attract the attention of beautiful girls. Strong individuals are always admired, and have the right to choose their partners. And this arena is where all the young people in Qinyang town show their fists and feet. Time flies by, and in the blink of an eye, there are only 2 short days left until the end of the year. Xiao Ye village is filled with joy from top to bottom. Shua. Xiao Ye's eyelids trembled as he lay in bed, then he opened them. In his pitch-black pupils, a sharp gleam flashed through, as if it could penetrate the heart. Xiao Ye jumped out of bed, clenched his fist slightly, and suddenly his muscles and bones burst into a crackling sound. At the same time, a powerful aura emerged from the body, lifting up the dust on the ground. Finally. The realm after tomorrow. Feeling the surging true qi in his body, Xiao Ye's face was full of excitement. After 900 days of hard cultivation in the Tower of Time, he finally broke through the wall barrier, generated true qi in his body, and crossed into the realm of the afterlife. Such a young postnatal martial artist, looking across the entire Qinyang town, cannot find a single one. Now Xiao Ye has undergone a transformation, with every move and gesture possessing an intimidating aura. The Tower of Time seems to have entered my body again. Xiao Ye lifted her clothes and noticed a tower-shaped mark on her chest. When he confirmed his consciousness and was free to enter and exit the Tower of Time, he breathed a sigh of relief, but he was unable to summon the Tower of Time. Yi air. Xiao Yang and Luo Milan were startled and they heard the commotion inside the house, and quickly pushed the door in. When they saw Xiao Ye standing there, smiling at them, they couldn't help but cry with joy, and the big stone in their hearts finally fell. Yi air, I'm sorry. Xiao Yang hesitated, his face full of bitterness. Dad, what's wrong? Xiao Yang asked. After hesitating for a moment, Xiao Yang finally spoke everything out. Xiao Ye's eyes gradually became cold. It turned out that so many things had happened in the past 3 months. Yi air, it's all my fault that my father is useless. I didn't protect the dragon snake blood for you. Xiao Yang blamed himself. Xiao Ye didn't wake up within the time limit set by the village chief, and the dragon snake blood had already been taken by Xiao Ba. A few days ago, Xiao Teng had already left the pass, but Xiao Ba remained silent about his strength. The village chief had personally visited him, and in the end, he laughed and returned. Xiao Yang continued. Xiao Ye was unconscious for 3 months, but Xiao Teng had the help of the dragon snake blood. No matter how strong the opponent was, it was not comparable to Xiao Ye. The first genius of Xiaojia village, he was no longer his son. Thinking of this, Xiao Yang felt a wave of guilt. If it weren't for his broken meridians, how could Xiao Ba take away the dragon snake blood belonging to his son? Yang Gu, Yi Er's ability to wake up is the most important thing. We just need to be together as a family, Romilan said quickly. Yes. Xiao Yang forced a smile and said, yes, Yi Er, you just woke up and need to rest well. You don't have to go to the wedding selection in 2 days. Don't you need to go? Xiao Ye looked surprised. In theory, he was over 14 years old and according to the customs of Qinyang town, he could participate in the marriage selection. However, his parents' reaction made him puzzled. Dad, Mom, what's going on? Xiao Ye said in a deep voice, feeling a bad premonition in his heart. Xiao Yang and Luo Milan exchanged a glance, and finally forced a bitter smile. I won't let you participate in the wedding selection because our family hasn't received a wedding invitation yet. Xiao Yang's words made Xiao Ye's pupils shrink suddenly, and a burst of anger surged in his heart. The so-called intimate post refers to a post given by the woman to the man before participating in the wedding selection, representing her admiration for the man. This is a custom in Qingyang town. The more intimate posts one receives, the more radiant the man's face naturally becomes. In previous years, when choosing a marriage, the man used the number of matchmaking invitations he received as a capital for comparison, because this matter concerns the man's face. When he was not yet 15 years old, the name of genius spread throughout Qingyang town, and matchmakers from other villages came one after another to persuade Xiao Ye to act as a matchmaker. Although Xiao Ye refused everything due to Lu Yi's reasons, he still couldn't stop the enthusiasm of those matchmakers. But now, due to his unconscious state, the doorstep is deserted and no one cares. Is this human nature? These people are really snobbish, Xiao Ye lamented. Xiao Ye could imagine that if he went to participate in the marriage election, he would definitely become the laughing stock of others. No wonder his parents would stop him from participating in the election. Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. Xiao Ye took a deep breath and said to her parents. It can be imagined that during this period, my parents have endured many cold words, and there are probably many people waiting to see their family's jokes. I will definitely participate in this wedding selection. Xiao Ye said firmly in her tone. He wants to prove to Xiao Yang that even without dragon snake blood, he is still better than others. He wants his parents take pride in him. He wants to retaliate to those who read jokes, give them a hard slap. Stinky kid, you. Xiao Yang and Luo Milan looked at each other with a bitter smile. They knew their son's personality well, and once they made a decision, they couldn't persuade him anymore. After talking to her parents for a while, Xiao Ye walked out of the house and walked freely in the village. Oh, I never expected that Wu Meyer, the first beautiful woman in Qingyang town, would personally send a wedding invitation to Xiao Teng. That's natural. Since ancient times, beauties have been paired with heroes. Xiao Teng is now the first genius in our Xiaojia village, and it's normal for Wu Meyer to embrace him. Suddenly, the sound of conversation coming from afar caught Xiao Ye's attention. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Marriage Competition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Marriage Competition, Wu Meyer. Xiao Ye frowned, and he was not unfamiliar with this name. Wu Meyer is the granddaughter of the village chief of Wujia village in Qingyang town, and her beauty is known as the #1 beauty in Qingyang town. When Xiao Ye was still the first genius in Xiaojia village, Wu Meyer was particularly enthusiastic about him and openly admired him, but was rejected by Xiao Ye. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, he threw himself into Xiao Teng's arms. Xiao Ye felt a deep disgust toward such a woman. A snobbish woman. Xiao Ye shook his head and was about to turn around and leave. At this moment, the crowded crowd in the distance automatically separated, and Xiao Teng walked out with a young girl. That young girl is around 14 years old, with a charming face and graceful figure. Her autumn-like eyes sparkle with a captivating radiance. Compared to Lu Yi's pure and elegant beauty, this girl has an extra charm on her body. Xiao Teng and Wu Meyer walked side by side, their clothes fluttering, and their male affection was like a pair of Bai-Ren. Xiao Ye. Suddenly, Xiao Teng's footsteps stopped and his gaze froze. Shua. Upon hearing Xiao Teng's words, everyone's gaze converged on Xiao Ye, and whispers rang out. Xiao Ye surprisingly woke up. What if he wakes up? His position has been replaced by Xiao Teng. Some people have a shocked expression, while more people have a playful expression. The first genius of Xiaojia village in the past and the current first genius unexpectedly met under such circumstances. Seeing being discovered, Xiao Ye made a bold appearance. Tengu, let's go. Wu Meyer looked at Xiao Ye with a look of disgust on her face. When she saw Xiao Ye, she thought of the way she had been actively pursuing her partner. If Xiao Ye is still the first genius, that's not a big deal, but he's not anymore. Rejected by a guy who has lost her aura, Wu Meyer naturally develops disgust in her heart. Xiao Ye, I heard you haven't received a personal message yet, have you? Xiao Teng's mouth was slightly mocked, but there was a cold gleam in his eyes. He deeply remembered the scene when Xiao Ye defeated him back then. Coincidentally, I've received too many kissing posts. Why don't I give you some? Xiao Teng said, holding Wu Meyer's small hand in protest, looking proud. He is now the first genius in Xiaojia village, and the first beautiful woman in Qinyang town is also standing on his side. What is Xiao Ye fighting against him for? Xiao Ye sneered, is Xiao Teng an idiot? Does he think holding Wu Meyer's hand can provoke him? He is Xiao Ye, but he has never been attracted to a woman like Wu Meyer before, and he will never be. Sorry, even Xiao Ye wouldn't want things that others don't want. It's you, Xiao Teng, who has been picking up things I don't want, such as body refining pills, dragon snake blood, and her. Xiao Ye said in the end, glancing at Wu Meyer with a clear meaning. Xiao Teng's face immediately changed, and his body trembled with anger, wishing to swallow Xiao Ye alive. He wanted to counterattack with his words, but after thinking for a while, he didn't think of a suitable language, and instead turned his face red. Xiao Ye, what qualifications do you have to say that about me? You are no longer the first genius in Xiao family village. Remember, it was my mother who didn't want you. Wu Meyer cursed like a cat with its tail stepped on, without any image. As the first beautiful woman in Qinyang town, how could Xiao Ye insult her casually? But this fiery personality makes people shake their heads secretly. Xiao Ye was too lazy to argue with Wu Meyer and turned around to leave. Xiao Ye. Xiao Teng roared angrily, I hope you won't be a shrunken turtle in the wedding selection in 2 days. If there were village rules in Xiaojia village, young people would not be allowed to fight freely. He would have rushed forward and torn Xiao Ye into pieces long ago. Xiao Ye didn't turn back, and a faint voice came to Xiao Teng's ear. On the wedding selection arena, I'm waiting for you. Xiao Ye is going to participate in the wedding selection. The onlookers took a deep breath. How brave is it to participate in the wedding selection without receiving a wedding invitation? Xiao Ye returned to his room and sat cross-legged on the bed. With a slight thought, the true qi in his body surged through the meridians. I have now broken through to the level of the acquired realm. If I want to continue improving, I still need to develop a set of acquired techniques, Xiao Ye thought. The basic combat technique of Tiger Fist can only refine the body and does not help to strengthen the true qi in the body at all. The postnatal cultivation method can refine and strengthen the true qi in the body. There are several collections in Xiaojia village. If any villagers break through to the postnatal realm, they can find the village chief to collect them. Forget it, go and collect it after the wedding selection ceremony, Xiao Ye muttered to herself. Anyway, the divorce election is only 2 days away, and he is not in a hurry. On the morning of the 3rd day, as the sun cast its first beam of light, Xiao Ye, sitting on the bed, opened her eyes and pushed the door open before walking out. Outside the door, Xiao Yang and Luo Milan were already ready. Yi Heir, are you sure you want to participate in the wedding selection? Xiao Yang asked again. Participating in the wedding selection without receiving a wedding invitation will definitely become a laughingstock for others. He doesn't care, he's afraid that Xiao Ye won't be able to withstand this kind of blow. Mom and Dad, don't worry, I'm fine. Xiao Ye gave a faint smile and his eyes were clear. He whispered, after today, no one will dare to mock us anymore. After speaking, Xiao Ye walked out of the room first. Brother Yang, do you think that Yi Heir seems a bit different? Luo Milan hesitated for a moment and asked. Xiao Yang stared at Xiao Ye's back, furrowed his brows, and said with some uncertainty, it seems. It's a bit different. Xiao Ye broke through to the postnatal realm, and after more than 900 days of hard work, his temperament changed. Even if he didn't have explosive strength, he still had an intimidating power. I seem to feel the fluctuation of true qi on Yi air. Suddenly, Xiao Ye seemed to remember something and his face was filled with fear. Before all his meridians were shattered, he was also a martial artist in the acquired realm, so he was naturally familiar with the fluctuations of true qi. Immediately after, his face turned into self-deprecation. It must be my illusion. Xiao Ye has been in a coma for 3 months, as long as his strength doesn't decline, it's not bad. How could he possibly step into the postnatal realm? Moreover, Xiao Ye has only turned 15 years old today. Today, Qingyang town is particularly lively, and all the villages are empty. A large team of people rushed to the center of Qingyang town. Mr. Wu, you arrived very early this year. Xiao Tianxiong appeared with the people from Xiaojia village and bowed to an old man in a gray robe. The old man in the gray robe is about the same age as Xiao Tianxiong. His name is Wu Shi and he is the village chief of Wujia village. Wu Shi looked spirited and said with a resounding smile, Mr. Xiao, it's because your legs are not agile enough. You old man Wu, aren't you almost in the coffin too? Xiao Tianxiong glared and cursed angrily. As soon as we met, the village chiefs of the 2 villages clashed and the people around us were speechless. Old Wu, old Xiao, you are all of an old age. If you don't restrain your temper, you won't be afraid of being laughed at by the younger generation. At this moment, a skinny old man appeared with his team. Mr. Shi, you're here too. Xiao Tianxiong and Wu Shi looked over at the same time. This skinny old man, named Shi Zhan, is the village chief of Shijia village. He appears to have loose hair and is much older than Xiao Tianxiong and Wu Shi. Xiaojia village, Wujia village, and Shijia village can be said to be the 3 most powerful villages in Qingyang town, and their relationships are quite good. The rest are all small and weak villages. Mr. Shi, I heard that there is a genius in your village named Shi Bo. At the age of 19, he reached the peak of the 9th level of physical training. I don't know which one it is. Wu Shi asked curiously, his gaze constantly searching behind Shi Zhan. The stone waves in our village are not worth mentioning, but it is Mr. Zhao's amazing skills that he killed a dragon snake and obtained its blood, which was used by a younger generation named Xiao Teng. This year's wedding selection arena is probably the most dazzling among Xiao Teng. Shi Zhan casually shifted the topic. Upon hearing Shi Zhan mention himself, Xiao Teng, who was following Xiao Ba, straightened his chest and was full of energy. He. Wu Shi grinned and looked at Xiao Teng beside him with satisfaction. His granddaughter Wu Meier has already sent a wedding invitation to Xiao Teng, and with her appearance, it is certain that Xiao Teng will not refuse. So, Xiao Teng will become his grandson's son-in-law in the future. Having such an outstanding younger generation as his granddaughter-in-law, Wu Shi feels very honored. Old man Wu, I remember you used to get your granddaughter and Xiao Ye together, Shi Zhan said in a teasing tone. After being publicly exposed, Wu Shi's blush. He stuck his neck and said, joke. Can Xiao Ye compare with Xiao Teng? Of course, only Xiao Teng can match my granddaughter's appearance. You did meet the Wind Envoy's rudder, knowing that Xiao Teng had already surpassed Xiao Ye after using the dragon snake blood. Shi Zhanqi shook his head cruelly and said no more. As time passed, more and more people gathered in the center of Qingyang town, and almost all the villagers arrived. Tz, I heard that your little kid has received 6 wedding invitations. TSK, you're really amazing. It's just average. Didn't your little brat also receive 5 wedding invitations? The 2 villagers were talking with a hint of pride in their words. As soon as a villager arrives, they discuss the number of family posts their child has received. At this time, any villager whose child has received too few family posts will bow their head and remain silent because they do not have the capital to show off. Humph, can you compare the number of personal posts with me? Upon hearing these comments, Xiao Teng felt proud. Today, he has received a total of 60 personal posts. Suddenly, the scene suddenly quieted down, and everyone turned their heads at the same time to look at the entrance. There, 3 figures appeared, with the young man wearing coarse linen clothes first. He had clear eyebrows, beautiful eyes, and a calm expression. It was the first genius of Xiao Ye village in the past, Xiao Ye. Seeing the person coming clearly, the villagers at the scene immediately began to whisper. In Qingyang town, the deeds of the top-performing young people in various villages have long been spread. I heard that the name the first genius of Xiao Ye village has been replaced by Xiao Teng. This is not a big deal, because Xiao Ye has fainted, so he did not receive a wedding invitation before this election. What? Someone immediately widened their eyes. If you haven't received the wedding invitation, you dare to come and participate in the selection. Various comments flooded the air, making Xiao Ye instantly the focus of everyone's attention. Xiao Teng looked at Xiao Ye with a cold smile on his lips. Xiao Ye really dared to come. Xiao Ye, this is the wedding selection ceremony. What are you doing here? In front of everyone, Xiao Teng deliberately wanted to embarrass Xiao Ye. Since it's the wedding selection ceremony and I'm a part of Xiao Ye village, why can't I come? Xiao Ye said slowly. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Defeating the enemy with one move. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Defeating the enemy with one move. Xiao Teng took a step out, carrying his hands behind his back, and proudly said, if you haven't received the invitation, it proves that no woman is interested in you, so you don't have the right to come here. Without a personal invitation, one cannot attend the wedding selection ceremony. Did you set this rule? Have you, Xiao Teng, become so proud that you don't take the 3 village chiefs seriously? Xiao Ye's voice gradually grew cold. You. Xiao Teng's breath froze and his face was full of anger. Although there is a custom of sending wedding invitations before the selection of marriage, there is indeed no regulation that the man cannot participate in the selection without a wedding invitation. Moreover, the 3 respected village chiefs were all present at the scene. If he continues to counterattack, wouldn't he not be holding on to the title of disrespectful elders? Xiao Ye gave him a cold glance and then bowed to the 3 village chiefs, saying, Grandpa Village Chief, Grandpa Wu, Grandpa Shi. Xiao Teng, you go down, Xiao Tianxiong said with a displeased expression. He was very disappointed because Xiao Teng was too impulsive and difficult to become a great person in the future. Thinking of the dragon and snake blood he had worked so hard to waste on such a person, Xiao Tianxiong felt a wave of unwillingness. Yi heir, I can only blame you for waking up too late, Xiao Tianxiong sighed secretly. Humph. Xiao Teng sat back with a cold snort. In the wedding competition, you'd better not meet me, otherwise I'll make sure you look good. The sound of firecrackers rang out casually, and the New Year's gathering began. The central square of Qingyang town has at least thousands of banquets arranged, with everyone eating and drinking, making it very lively. About an hour later, when everyone had eaten and drunk enough, a middle-aged man stepped onto the central arena. Xiao Ye looked up and found that it was the young leader of their village, Xiao Dashan. Everyone, be quiet. Next is the long-awaited marriage selection competition. Ladies who are participating in the selection, please come out, Xiao Dashan said in a loud voice. Suddenly, a group of young girls dressed in festive red robes appeared, warblers and swallows, with shy eyes, and walked to the front of the arena. Among these girls, Wu Meyer, who stands at the forefront of the queue, is the most eye-catching. She alone caught the attention of most teenagers. Damn it, you're so disgusting, you're drooling. There's no way, who made Wu Meyer so beautiful? If I could marry her back home, I would be willing to live 10 years less. As soon as this sentence was spoken, it immediately caused a burst of laughter. 10 years. You're too greedy. If I were you, I would have lived 20 years less. Another young man spoke, pushing the atmosphere to its peak, with constant bursts of laughter. Xiao Ye sat in his seat, but kept eating vegetables. He came to participate in the wedding selection, originally to give Xiao Yang a long face. He didn't want to be bound by marriage so early. Listening to the exclamation, Wu Meyer straightened her well-developed chest and scanned the room like a proud princess. Humph, these stinky men, just because you still want to touch my mother in dream. But when Wu Meyer's gaze stopped at Xiao Ye, her expression suddenly changed. The other party didn't even look at her and lowered their head to eat. Is Wu Meyer not as attractive as a plate of vegetables? Xiao Ye, I must let Tinga beat you to death. The other party's disregard made Wu Meyer grit her teeth in anger. I announce that the wedding selection ceremony has officially begun. Xiao Dashan exclaimed, then took out a list from his arms. Next, I will call the names of the 2 teenagers based on this list. The 2 teenagers who have chosen their names can freely use their hands and feet, but remember not to harm anyone. Then, Xiao Dashan explained the process of the arena competition. Xiao Ye was still participating in the wedding selection for the first time, and he listened carefully, feeling a sudden change in his heart. There are a total of 655 young people participating in the wedding selection this time. Except for the 5 who received the most wedding invitations, the remaining 650 young people need to go through several rounds of melee to select one person to enter the finals. This rule has been passed down in Xinyang town for hundreds of years, and there were originally not many loopholes. Because when the woman chooses to send a wedding invitation, she always chooses someone with strong abilities. It is obviously unreasonable to have strong teenagers participate in melee. But this time, everyone's expression became strange, and they turned their heads to look at Xiao Ye. In the hearts of everyone, although Xiao Ye is no longer the first genius of Xiaojia village, his qualifications are unquestionable, and he is also an outstanding presence among his peers in the entire Xinyang town. If it weren't for his accidental coma, he would definitely have received more personal posts. Even if he couldn't compare with Xiao Teng, he could definitely become one of those 5 people. Yi Er, are you okay? Xiao Yang said with some concern. Even if Xiao Ye could enter the finals through a melee, it would still consume too much and be difficult to unleash his peak strength, so Xiao Yang was somewhat worried. Mom and Dad, don't worry. Xiao Ye was full of confidence, and a sense of pride grew in his heart. Isn't it just 650 people? It's not a big deal to go all the way and surprise everyone's eyes. This way, it should be enough to give parents a long face. Thinking of this, Xiao Ye chuckled. Those who underestimate me, this time you should take good care of it. Up tiger seat. Xiao Dashan waved his hand on the arena, and suddenly 6 big men carrying 6 tiger leather chairs were placed on the open space in front of the arena, lined up in a row with extraordinary momentum. Tiger constellation, only the most outstanding young people in Xinyang town can sit on it, symbolizing that these young people can soar like dragons and tigers in the future. This is a kind of hope and hope. Schwa. As soon as the tiger constellation was lifted up, many young people stared fixedly at it. It was the most eye-catching seat in the entire Xinyang town. Over the years, anyone who had sat on the tiger constellation has grown into the backbone of various villages. Xiao Teng from Xiaojia village, received 60 personal posts, take the first place. Shibua from Shijia village, received 22 personal posts, sit second. Shi Wei from Shijia village, received 18 personal posts, sit third. Wu Daniu from Wujia village, received 15 personal posts, sit fourth. Li Wubua from Lijia village, received 12 personal invitations, sit fifth. Xiao Dashan shouted loudly. Suddenly, a young man walked out of the crowd. Xiao Teng stood up from Xiao Ba and sat on the first tiger skin chair, feeling envious gazes from around him. He smiled proudly. Xiao Ye, I wonder if you have the ability to sit on the 6th tiger seat. Xiao Teng looked at Xiao Ye in the crowd and sneered. Not only the 15-year-olds, but also the old fogies who have participated in several marriage elections, many of whom have reached the level of physical training. He does not believe that Xiao Ye can break through many fights. Enjoy the first tiger constellation well, because soon I will replace you and sit on it, Xiao Ye responded calmly. I'll wait. Xiao Teng's expression turned cold and he stopped looking at Xiao Ye. With the order of Xiao Dashan, the marriage selection competition officially began, and the first to enter the stage were two young people from weak villages. As soon as they entered the field, they began to fight fiercely, and every time they reached the exciting point, they would be shouted loudly off the field. This is the most eye-catching arena in the entire Qingyang town. The winner has a bright face, honors their parents, and can also win the heart of a beautiful woman. So every young man fights with all his might. After watching several duels, Xiao Ye lost much interest. In the eyes of a martial artist like him, this level of duel is like a child playing house. If it weren't for giving his parents a long face, he would be really lazy to participate in this kind of duel. Xiao Teng, after using the dragon snake blood, what level have you reached? I hope you don't disappoint me, Xiao Ye whispered to herself. Next, Xiao Ye from Xiaojia village will face off against Wu Dou from Wujia village. Suddenly, Xiao Dashan's voice silenced the audience, and everyone's gaze turned to Xiao Ye in unison. Xiao Ye pursed his lips and walked up to the arena in front of everyone's gaze. It's actually Wu Dou from Wujia village. This guy is a veteran who has participated in 5 marriage elections. His strength has reached the middle of the 9th level of physical training. Yeah, I didn't expect Xiao Ye to meet Wu Dou the first time he took office. He was really miserable now. Hearing Xiao Dashan's name, the crowd immediately began to discuss. At the wedding selection ceremony, not all participating men can find suitable partners and marry beautiful women. For example, this time, there were around 100 eligible girls participating in the marriage election, while there were a total of 655 male villagers in each village. This situation of more wolves and less meat also represents that most people will return empty-handed. Some people who are unwilling will continue to participate in the next year's marriage election, and Wu Dou is such a person. This kind of veteran who has participated in several marriage elections is the most difficult to deal with. Although their qualifications are limited, they cannot withstand the long time of cultivation, and everyone mourns silently for Xiao Ye. Whoosh! After Xiao Ye took the stage, a young man around 25 years old jumped up with him. Xiao Ye, I know you. It was the first day in Xiaojia village in the past, and encountering me was considered unlucky for you. Wu Dou grinned and said. He has participated in 5 marriage selections, but as he grew older, he was attracted to him by some crooked and split dates. However, he didn't like the other person, so he has been dragging on until now and hasn't gotten married. In the past marriage selection, he went through several rounds of melee and was sadly eliminated, naturally making it difficult to attract the attention of beautiful girls. But this time it's different, he actually met Xiao Ye in the melee. Although the other party has shed the halo of the first day, they are still outstanding among the younger generation in Qingyang town. Stepping on such a character will definitely win the heart of a beautiful woman, right? Thinking of this, Wu Dou couldn't help but feel a bit ethereal. His gaze swept over the girls with beautiful faces and graceful figures, and he couldn't help but swallow his saliva secretly. Do you want to step on me to ascend? Xiao Ye looked at the other person's eyes shining with green light, feeling contemptuous in his heart. Isn't this guy lonely for too long? At this moment, Wu Dou's body arched slightly, like a cheetah rushing towards him, unleashing a flawless straight hook punch. Get me down! Wu Dou shouted, all his strength exploding, striving to show bravery and invincibility. Suddenly, Wu Dou felt a blur in front of him, punching him in the air because Xiao Ye's figure had already disappeared from his sight. With just this little strength. Why don't you go down? A faint voice came into Wu Dou's ear, and at the same time, a hand was imprinted on his back. With a forceful thrust, Wu Dou plunged into the arena. Looking at this scene, everyone's faces were filled with astonishment. The duel ended so quickly, and they still couldn't react. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Road Rolling. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 8 Road Rolling Wu Do, who had reached the middle stage of the 9 heavens of body refining, surprisingly couldn't withstand a single move in Xiao Ye's hand. Even the vast majority of people in the field were still confused, not understanding how Wu Do was defeated. Wu Do was knocked unconscious and disoriented. He got up and looked at Xiao Ye on the stage, completely stunned. 3 village chiefs are sitting at the same table. Old man Xiao, what's going on? Didn't it mean that Xiao Ye just woke up? His strength doesn't seem like he just broke through the 9th level of physical cultivation. Zhan, with sparse hair, had a gleam in his eyes. Xiao Tianxiong's face was full of shock, and he shook his head with a bitter smile and said, I'm not sure about this either. Judging from Xiao Tianxiong's appearance, it didn't seem like he was fake. Zhan and Wu Shi exchanged a glance, their expressions varied. It seems that this little guy is not easy, Zhan said quietly for a long time. Humph. No matter how powerful he is, he can't compare with Xiao Teng, Wu Shi snorted coldly. He asked his granddaughter to send a wedding invitation to Xiao Teng, which means he placed all his treasures on the other party, and of course he didn't want Xiao Teng to lose to Xiao Ye. In fact, everyone firmly believes that after using the dragon snake blood, Xiao Teng's strength has far surpassed that of Xiao Ye. In the midst of everyone's astonishment, Xiao Ye had already walked off the arena. Stinky kid, that's great. Xiao Yang smiled happily, and Xiao Ye really gave him a big face. Apart from being happy, he did not further inquire about Xiao Ye's strength. The marriage and martial arts competition continued, with young men stepping onto the arena one by one. Most of them had similar abilities, and even had to take hundreds of moves before the duel could end. With Xiao Ye's stunning performance of defeating the enemy in one move, such a duel undoubtedly pales in comparison, even the cheers from the arena are sparse. At the same time, many girls with outstanding appearances quietly turned their gaze towards Xiao Ye's direction, their eyes sparkling with brilliance. Finally, half an hour later, it was Xiao Ye's turn to take the stage again. When his opponent heard Xiao Ye's name, his face changed instantly. He struggled for a moment and mustered the courage to attack Xiao Ye, but was still defeated by Xiao Ye's move. One move. One move. One move. Xiao Ye took the stage several times, each time with a single move to defeat the enemy. In the end, whenever Xiao Ye came on stage, there would be a deafening cheer in the field. Xiao Ye ran over him all the way, invincible in the melee, making everyone unable to lift their heads and firmly attracting the attention of everyone in the field, becoming the most eye-catching focus. The young girl's heart rippled in the audience, and she paid much less attention to the young man sitting on the 5-tiger seat. Alone, overwhelming all the peers who participated in the melee, what a magnificent and powerful presence. Even some girls with outstanding looks couldn't help but come to Xiao Yang and Luo Milan with a shy face, handing them a kiss invitation. Generally speaking, a woman will only submit a kiss invitation to one man, but this is not necessarily the case. In the history of Qingyang town, there has been a case where the woman regretted and switched to a private post. Because choosing marriage is a two-way process, the man can choose the woman, and the woman can also choose the man. But this situation is rare after all. The first girl took the lead and immediately caused a sensation, prompting other girls to submit their wedding invitations one after another. This situation left everyone stunned. In the blink of an eye, there was a thick stack of wedding invitations in front of Romlan, making her smile uncontrollably. Previously, she was in a bad mood because Xiao Ye did not receive the invitation, but now everything unpleasant has dissipated. Nima, I'm going to commit suicide, but my goddess has actually switched to a private post. Wow, let's go together. My Yuer has also switched to a wedding invitation, and my heart is broken. From time to time, there were curses and howls in the audience, and murderous gazes fell on Xiao Ye. Bastard! Xiao Teng sat on the first tiger chair, tightly gripping the armrest, his body trembling with anger, causing the armrest to deform. Most of the young girls who transferred to the post have already submitted it to him, which is definitely a blatant humiliation. Bastard, bastard. I must step on you. Xiao Teng roared wildly in his heart. Due to the excessive number of girls who switched to the wedding post, the scene became chaotic, forcing Xiao Dashan to come out and host the scene, announcing the continuation of the wedding competition. Xiao Ye frowned on the arena. There were over 600 men participating in the wedding selection, and it was unclear when it would end. He felt a bit impatient. It's like having an adult fight a child. Uncle Shan, let's go up together, Xiao Ye said to Xiao Dashan. The originally noisy scene suddenly quieted down, and the sound of needles falling could be heard. Everyone stared blankly at Xiao Ye, and even the 3 village chiefs were shocked. Let everyone go up together. This is too exaggerated. Nonsense. Xiao Tianxiong stood up and shouted loudly. The melee of marriage and martial arts competition is a round of selection, until the strongest person is selected before sitting on the 6th tiger chair. Now the scuffle is only half over, which means that at least 300 people have not been eliminated, and among these 300 people, there are many old fogies who have participated in several marriage elections. Let Xiao Ye fight against so many people all by himself. How could we possibly win? Fists and feet have no eyes, and when the time comes, they cannot stop. Xiao Ye will still have worries about his life. This kid is too crazy, let's go ahead and beat him to death. Xiao Ye's words caused a boiling roar in the audience, and the scene became chaotic for a moment. Due to the matchmaking incident, the people participating in the wedding selection had already been holding back a lot of anger. Now, even Xiao Tianxiong stopped drinking and jumped onto the stage, preparing to beat Xiao Ye up and vent his anger. Fortunately, considering the use of punches and kicks, this arena has been built large enough to accommodate over 300 people. Come on, brothers. Beat the boy, several old fogies shouted deliberately. Xiao Ye stole the spotlight of the marriage contest, and the beautiful ladies were attracted by Xiao Ye. They were so jealous. Several old fogies shouted, but people hid in the crowd. Many impulsive teenagers, on the other hand, became mentally aroused and shouted loudly, rushing towards Xiao Ye. Ye air. Seeing the scene completely out of control, Xiao Yang and Luo Milan's faces in the audience turned pale. Shi Lao Tu, Wu Lao Tu, save someone quickly. If Xiao Ye has any ups and downs, I will fight you all. Xiao Tianxiong charged towards the arena with a gloomy expression. Most of these 300 people are from Shijia village and Wujia village. Shi Zhan and Wu Shi dared not neglect and rushed forward with them. Xiao Ye is a true genius. If he were to suffer losses in their hands, Xiao Tianxiong would definitely go to great lengths to find them. On the challenge arena, Xiao Ye looks at some old fogies hiding in the crowd with scorn on his face. These guys dare not rush over, but they incite others to take action. It's really shameless. Facing 300 people alone, Xiao Ye's heart was filled with arrogance. He clenched his fists, and his body burst into a crackling sound, like stir-fried beans. A powerful force swam throughout his body. His body has been refined to the extreme of the refining realm, and even without using true qi, he can still unleash the strength of the 9 peaks of refining. Among these people, including those old fogies, the most powerful one is just the late stage of the 9th physical training. Tiger Fist. Xiao Ye's delicate face was filled with a hint of coldness, as if a tiger were pouncing on it, colliding with the approaching figure. Ah! Ah! The screams mixed with the dull impact echoed through the entire central square, and figures were blasted out of the arena by powerful force. The spectacular scene made everyone's expressions extremely exciting, their mouths wide open, forgetting to close. In the blink of an eye, the originally crowded challenge arena was cleared, leaving only a few old fogies hiding behind the crowd, standing there as if they were numb, trembling uncontrollably. Xiao Ye closed his fist and stood up, his body like a long spear, emitting an invincible aura as if he was about to pierce a hole in the sky. When Xiao Ye's eyes swept at them, those old fogies trembled and hurriedly said, "Let's get out of here." After speaking, they really jumped off the arena on their own. Their embarrassed appearance did not cause laughter, because everyone was immersed in shock. The three village chiefs who were originally rushing towards the arena also paused, their faces full of disbelief. A silent shock pervades the entire central square. Ye Ye's strength is not in the later stage of the 9th level of physical training, but at the peak of the 9th level. Xiao Tianxiong stared blankly at the young man on the arena. With his insight, how could he not see the strength demonstrated by Xiao Ye? Shi Zhan also froze for a moment, then sighed and said, "Old man Xiao, I really doubt if you are old and confused." The dragon snake blood was not given to such a genius, but was given to Xiao Teng. At the age of 15, when practicing alone, reaching the peak of 9 levels of physical cultivation, what a stunning sight. Looking at the villages of all sizes in Qinyang town, who can match Xiao Ye? Any village with such a genius will receive full cultivation. The strong regret in Shi Zhan's words made Xiao Tianxiong's heart ache fiercely, even his breathing became a bit heavy. Yes, if the snake and dragon blood were used by Xiao Ye, perhaps the youngest postnatal martial artist in history had already appeared in Xiaojia village and even Qinyang town. The will of heaven is deceiving people. Xiao Tianxiong smiled bitterly. Xiao Ye woke up too late, and the energy of the dragon snake's blood couldn't wait for that time. Fortunately, Xiao Teng's progress is not slow. Xiao Tianxiong let out a slow breath and his gaze became sharp again. At this moment, Wu Shi, who had been silent all along, glared at Xiao Tianxiong and said fiercely, "Old man Xiao, if you dare to deceive me, I will definitely strangle you." It was because he heard Xiao Tianxiong mention Xiao Teng's strength that he was in a hurry to ask Wu Meyer to give up Xiao Ye and submit a marriage invitation to Xiao Teng. If Xiao Teng did not reach the level of imagination and gave up on a genius like Xiao Ye, wouldn't he regret to die? Wu Shi's words made Xiao Tianxiong unhappy in his heart. He said calmly, "Don't worry, Xiao Ye is definitely not as good as Xiao Teng." Upon hearing Xiao Tianxiong's assurance, Wu Shi finally felt relieved. Can't compare to Xiao Teng. Has Xiao Teng reached the realm of postnatal cultivation? It's really exciting, Shi Zhan whispered. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Xiao Teng's strength. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Xiao Teng's strength. On the arena, Xiao Ye looked at Xiao Dashan beside the arena and said, "Uncle Shan, can we announce the result now?" Xiao Dashan came back to his senses from shock. He jumped onto the arena and loudly said, "I declare that Xiao Ye will win and enter the final of the competition for the top 6, sitting in the 6th tiger seat." Boom! As Xiao Dashan's words fell, the scene erupted with thunderous cheers, and everyone was shouting Xiao Ye's name, their faces full of madness. What kind of strength is this when one person defeats 300 peers in battle? Such a feat made the arena passionate for many years, admiring Xiao Yang on the arena and treating him as an idol. The girl who participated in the wedding selection wished she could immediately stand by Xiao Ye's side and become her companion. Being able to become a strong woman is what they most hope and crave for. Bastard, how could he be so strong? Wu Meyer stomped her feet in anger. Although she had been unconscious for 3 months, she had just woken up and reached the level of being looked up by her peers. Xiao Ye looked silently at the audience, then jumped off the arena and walked towards the tiger constellation. Xiao Teng looked at Xiao Ye with a gloomy gaze and sat on the 6th tiger seat. "I'll let you try, what's to spare?" Xiao Teng clenched his fists slowly. Xiao Dashan's palm lightly pressed on the arena, and the cheers in the arena suddenly subsided. "After resting for half an hour, we officially entered the finals," Xiao Dashan said and jumped off the arena. The half-hour break was actually prepared for the young man to stand out from the melee, but everyone understood that Xiao Ye's participation in the melee did not consume much. But the rules are the rules, and everyone patiently started talking quietly while waiting for the finals. "You say, who will be the champion of this marriage competition?" I think there is a high possibility that Xiao Ye will win. TSK, at the age of 15, he is truly a genius at the 9 peaks of physical cultivation. Cut, Xiao Ye is a genius. But among the other 5, which one is an ordinary character? Someone sneered, for example, Xiao Teng, after using the dragon snake blood, his strength will definitely not be inferior to Xiao Ye. There is also Shi Bo, the first genius of Shijia village, who has reached the peak of the 9th level of physical training. Compared to him, Xiao Ye is still a bit tender. Upon hearing this person's words, everyone pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. Those who can sit in the constellation of tigers are undoubtedly the most outstanding figures from various villages, standing at the peak of their peers in Xingyang town, with the most dazzling light condensed on their bodies. Compared to these people, Xiao Ye is still too young to have any advantage. Quickly, half an hour passed and Xiao Dashan walked onto the arena. Now is the final that everyone is most interested in. I won't say much nonsense. I have a list of finalists in my hand, and anyone who reads their name will come up to compete. Xiao Dashan spoke and took out a new list. Everyone held their breath, their eyes filled with anticipation. Who would be the first to fight? In the first match, Wu Dainiu from Wujia village will face off against Shi Wei from Shijia village. After reading the list, Xiao Dashan walked off the arena. Shi Wei. A young man stood up from the 4th tiger constellation, with dark skin and a sturdy body like a bull. His tall body was visually oppressive. He stared at the young man on the 3rd tiger seat and said, I heard you are the 2nd genius of Shijia village. Let me try it today. Do you have that weight? Shi Wei was an ordinary-looking young man who stood up from the tiger seat and sneered, You stupid cow, today I'm going to beat you to the point where I can't get you married. If I can't get a wife, then I'll mess with your wife. Wu Dainiu glared and his temper rose. Both are outstanding peers in their respective villages, and naturally have an unyielding pride in their hearts. You're so good, you deserve to be the seed of Wujia village. Wu Dainiu's words immediately caused a burst of laughter, making the young girls in the audience blush and give Wu Dainiu a white glance. Immediately afterwards, the two of them jumped onto the arena and began a duel under the gaze of everyone. Wu Dainiu roared loudly, stepping on the arena and charging towards Shi Wei, his heavy steps shaking the arena. This Wu Dainiu is so powerful, Xiao Ye's eyes lit up. On the arena, Shi Wei was shocked by the power of Wu Dainiu, and he stepped forward to avoid Wu Dainiu's impact. 2 people, one chasing and the other hiding, fell into a stalemate for a while. Shoo! The villagers under the arena shook their heads together. What's the point of such a showdown? Old man Wu, I heard that Wu Dainiu from your village is naturally powerful, and now he is truly extraordinary at first sight, exclaimed Xiao Tianxiong. Wu Shi smiled proudly and said, That's natural. Although Daniel only has the strength in the middle stage of the 9th level of body cultivation, his strength can be compared to that of the martial artists at the peak of the 9th level of body cultivation. Mr. Shi, your village's Shi Wei is determined to lose. Shi Zhan's expression was unexpectedly calm. He calmly took a sip of wine and said, Shi Wei is only capable of refining his mid-level strength in the 9th level of his body. Losing is also normal. Sure enough, not long after, while Shi Wei was dodging, he was punched in the right arm by Wu Dainiu, and his body came to a standstill. But Wu Dainiu seized the opportunity and launched a fierce attack, smashing Shi Wei out of the arena. Wu Dainiu wins and enters the top 3. Xiao Dashan announced loudly. I've said before, you're not my opponent. Wu Dainiu walked up to the edge of the arena and looked down at Shi Wei as he climbed up. Humph. Shi Wei snorted coldly and turned around to leave. Because Wu Dainiu won, he replaced Shi Wei and took the 3rd tiger seat, while Shi Wei took Wu Dainiu's seat. Sitting in this seat, I feel so good, Wu Dainiu chuckled, making Shi Wei beside him roll his eyes in anger. Xiao Ye smiled slightly, but Wu Dainiu was quite interesting. In the second round, Xiao Ye from Xiaojia village will face off against Li Wubua from Lijia village. Xiao Dashan looked at the list on the arena and shouted loudly. Is it my turn so soon? Xiao Ye hesitated for a moment before finally standing up and looking at the sixth tiger constellation. Li family village is located in Qingyang town and is a small and weak village with less than 200 people, far from being comparable to Xiao family village. Li Wubua is around 23 years old, tall and thin like a monkey, and is the first genius of Li family village. He stood up from the tiger seat and looked at Xiao Ye with a struggling expression on his face. Finally, he smiled bitterly and arched his hand at Xiao Ye, saying, Xiao Ye, I'm not your opponent, there's no need to compete. I'll give up. A young man in his 20s, bowing his head and admitting defeat to a 15-year-old boy, this scene is quite strange. However, upon careful consideration, everyone was relieved. Although Li Wubua is the first genius of Li Jiazuan, he has only honed his strength in the middle of the 9th stage of physical training, and he will also be defeated on stage. In this way, Xiao Ye directly advanced to the top 3 and sat on Li Wubua's tiger throne. On the arena, Xiao Dashan continued to recite the list. Next. Xiao Dashan's tone was somewhat solemn. Xiao Teng from Xiaojia village, confront Shi Bo from Shijia village. Wow! Although everyone had long anticipated that these two people would engage in a showdown, now hearing Xiao Dashan's words, there were still loud noises and fiery gazes, looking at the two people slowly standing up from the tiger seat. One is the first genius of Xiaojia village, and after using the blood of the dragon snake, no one knows how powerful he is. One is the first genius of Shijia village, who rarely appears in front of others. He has only participated in the marriage selection after practicing hard until now. At the age of 19, he reached the peak of 9 levels of physical training, and his name resonated throughout Qingyang town, with strong popularity and even a trend of being respected by his peers in the town. Xiao Ye was very interested and admired Shi Bo very much. He only practiced Lo.Qin painstakingly until he was 19 years old before participating in the marriage election, which is something many people cannot achieve. Xiao Teng. A young man with disheveled long hair, resembling a wild man, stepped onto the arena, his eyes shining brightly and his fighting spirit soaring. In Qingyang town today, you are worth being my opponent. I hope you don't disappoint me, Shi Bo said slowly. Xiao Teng came to the arena with his hands on his back. He shook his head and said, It's a pity that you don't deserve to be my opponent, Xiao Teng. Hush. Xiao Teng's words finally fell, and the whole room fell silent. The sound of gasping for breath echoed through the room, and everyone stared at Xiao Teng with wide eyes. Faced with Shi Bo, Xiao Teng was able to say such things. Is he confident or arrogant? Shi Bo furrowed his brows and said lightly, Your breath is not small. Have you stepped into the postnatal realm? Xiao Teng still carried his hands on his back, and with a mysterious smile, he said, I didn't step into the realm after tomorrow, but I have reached. Boom! Accompanied by Xiao Teng's words, a powerful aura swept over him, causing the whole room to fall into a deathly silence. Xiao Teng's words echoed like thunder in their hearts. Half a step, the day after tomorrow. At this moment, everyone's heart was pounding wildly. Xiao Teng, surprisingly reached the heavenly realm half a step later. Shi Bo's gaze changed. The cultivation realm is an acquired realm, a great obstacle that has stopped many ambitious warriors. He has tried several times to challenge the acquired realm, but ultimately failed. But Xiao Teng was able to use the blood of the dragon and snake to cross half of his foot over this threshold in a short time. It seems that he does not rely entirely on Xiao Ba's cultivation, as widely rumored in the outside world. Half a step later, the heavenly realm. Shi Zhan's sparsely haired body trembled, and a faint gleam appeared in his slightly cloudy eyes. Old man Xiao, there is an outstanding young generation in your Xiao family village. Xiao Tianxiong chuckled and said, I'm actually surprised that Xiao Teng can reach the heavenly realm half a step later in such a short time. The younger generation in his own village is outstanding, so of course he has a shining face. His Xiaojie village and the two major villages of Shernwu appear to be harmonious on the surface, but in reality, they have been secretly competing with each other, hoping to cultivate younger generations who can outdo the other two villages. In recent years, the rise of Shibua in Shijie village has made it difficult for his peers to lift their heads. Wu Dainiu in Wujia village is naturally powerful and can fight higher and higher. However, talent in Xiaojie village has declined, and there are no peers who can match the two. Xiao Ye and Xiao Teng are also too young. So in a fit of anger, Xiao Tianxiong waited in the ferocious beast forest for a month and finally obtained the blood of the dragon and snake, in order to cultivate a younger generation who could crush Shi Bo and Wu Dainiu. Now the goal has finally been achieved, although the process has been somewhat unsatisfactory. Xiao Tianxiong, I also want to thank you for cultivating a good grandson. Law for me. Wu Shilao's face was like a blooming chrysanthemum. The day after half a step at the age of 15 has never happened before in the history of Qinyang town. What dissatisfaction does Wu Shi have with having such a grandson? Law. Sigh. Shi Zhan shook his head helplessly, and Xiao Teng reached half a step the day after tomorrow. Shi Bo was sure to lose. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. One hand suppresses you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. One hand suppresses you above the arena. Shibua, give up, you can't beat me. Xiao Teng carried his hands on his back and looked down at Shibua with a downward gaze. Half a step later is a transitional realm from the refining realm to the acquired realm. Although Xiao Teng's body has not yet derived true qi, there is a seed of true qi that can provide power far beyond the refining realm. He, who can already look down on his peers in the whole town, is today the most dazzling genius. Glory belongs to him, and beauty also belongs to him. Give up. Shibua, with long and scattered hair like a wild man, shook his head and said in a deep voice, if you don't fight, give up. That's not my Shibua's way of doing things. I want to give it a try, how big a difference there is between you and me. Shi Bo's body surged with a fierce sense of war, and his body erupted. A set of palm techniques flowed like flowing water in his hand. Open the tablet and palm. As Shi Bo's palms clapped out, each palm wind shrouded Xiao Teng tightly, with the power of opening a monument and cracking stones. Humph, I think you have good qualifications. I wanted you to have the face to step down. Since you are stubborn, don't blame me. Xiao Teng snorted coldly, walking in the palm of his hand like a leisurely stroll, his palms suddenly pushed forward. Boom! A fierce burst of energy sounded, crushing all of Shibua's palms, and the remaining momentum continued to bombard Shibua's body. Puff! Shi Bo spewed out a mouthful of blood, his body rising from the ground and crashing into the arena, unable to get up for half a day. Xiao Teng. Shi Zhan, the village chief of Shijie village, suddenly stood up, his wine glass in his hand crushed. Do you not know this rule of choosing marriage in martial arts, prohibiting hurting others? Shibua is the first genius of Shijie village, and if there were any ups and downs, the losses of Shijie village would be huge. Xiao Teng, you're going too far. The villagers of Shijie village shouted angrily under the arena, and the crowd was excited, almost rushing forward. Xiao Tianxiong and Wu Shi looked at each other with a heavy expression. Xiao Teng had indeed gone too far. The wedding selection ceremony was originally a happy event, but now it has become bloody. If the past marriage and martial arts competitions were like this, the three villages would have started fighting long ago. Under the inspection of the villagers, fortunately Shi Bo's injury was not too serious and he was able to recover for a period of time. With the help of a villager, Shibua sat back in the tiger seat with a pale face. On the arena, Xiao Teng didn't feel any shame at all. Instead, he sneered inwardly, I, Xiao Teng, am 15 years old and half a step away. Not to mention hurting Bo, even if I kill him, the village chief will still protect me. Xiao Teng has this confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, my son has indeed been a bit heavy-handed. After the wedding selection ceremony, I will personally come to apologize. Xiao Ba walked out with a smile, calming the excited emotions of the villagers in Shijia village. Seeing that Bo was not in a big deal, coupled with Xiao Ba's attitude, the voice of dissatisfaction gradually subsided. Xiao Ba stood up and looked at Xiao Dashan with a smile. Dashan, there shouldn't be any competition next, right? As you have seen with your own eyes, my son has already reached half a step away. He is not a useless person, and he is qualified to compete with me. Xiao Ba spoke and coldly glanced at Xiao Yang. Shua. Xiao Yang's face immediately changed and his body trembled with anger. His meridians were shattered, and it was well known throughout the town that he became a useless person. However, the simple villagers tried their best to avoid touching the scars in Xiao Yang's heart. But Xiao Ba, in front of the whole town, called him a useless person. Xiao Ba. Xiao Ye walked over with steps. Is it really worth showing off that your son broke through half a step the day after tomorrow with the blood of the dragon snake? Xiao Ba said coldly, just be stronger than you. You should follow your useless father and go home. Really? Then you can see it clearly. In front of everyone's eyes, Xiao Ye stepped onto the arena, his sharp eyes shooting fiercely. I, Xiao Ye, don't need the blood of dragons and snakes, I can sweep everyone. At this moment, Xiao Ye was like an unsheathed long sword, pointing towards the sky. Don't. Xiao Yang was shocked when he saw this scene. I'm sure I'll lose. Bo on the tiger seat shook his head and said. He and Xiao Ye were both at the peak of the 9th level of body refining. If he were defeated, Xiao Ye would definitely not be much better. Hee. Beyond her control, Wu Meyer sneered in the girls' team. On the arena, Xiao Teng carried his hands on his back and sneered, Xiao Ye, I thought you were going to be a shrunken turtle, but I didn't expect you to have the courage to come up. I have hated you for a long time, and today I will personally end this dislike. The first genius in Xiaojia village, it will always be me. After speaking, Xiao Teng roared, his black hair turning cold and his true energy seed trembling in his body, flowing with abundant strength. Taste it, what does despair mean? Xiao Teng walked towards him with a fierce expression. With each step, the arena shook a few times, leaving deep footprints and a deafening sound. Dad, look at your son, how excellent he is, Xiao Ye whispered to himself as he looked at Xiao Teng. Boom! Xiao Teng's momentum climbed to the peak, and he moved at a speed far beyond the refining realm, pouring out like the power of a flash flood, intending to drown Xiao Ye. Stop it! Xiao Tianxiong was furious, but he couldn't stop it in time because it happened too quickly and had evolved into the two most outstanding young people fighting in Xiao family village. You're right, there is only one first genius in Xiaojia village, but unfortunately that person is not you. Xiao Ye's black hair danced wildly, his eyes shining like stars. Tiger Fist. Xiao Ye punched out with a single punch, and the force of his fist integrated into a ferocious tiger head. The wind and clouds changed color, triggering a tiger roar that shook the entire field, ready to break through the 9 heavens. Boom! A strong collision swept up the sky with smoke and dust, and on the arena, 2 figures separated at a touch, with one person stepping back a few steps. Xiao Ye was not blown away. Everyone exclaimed in surprise as they looked at the retreating figure. When the smoke and dust dissipated, the retreating figure appeared clearly, and everyone was stunned because that retreating figure belonged to Xiao Teng. That's Tiger Fist. The 3 village chiefs stood up at the same time, with a strong shock on their old faces. The Tiger Fist is widely spread in various villages in Qingyang town. As village chiefs, they are well aware of the difficulties in understanding the power of the Tiger Fist. That's the fierce tiger fist technique that none of the 3 village chiefs have comprehended. No wonder Xiao Ye was able to repel Xiao Teng instead. Shi Zhan's eyes lit up. This is definitely a martial arts genius. The improvement of martial arts realm can be achieved through the assistance of elixirs and other materials. Even a waste material, stacked with various resources, can have a high level of martial arts realm. But to master combat skills to a profound level, there is only continuous hard work and understanding, and there are no shortcuts to take. At the age of 15, Xiao Ye was able to comprehend the fierce tiger fist technique, indicating that he had a terrifying talent in his combat skills. Based solely on this, Xiao Ye's strength is not inferior to Xiao Teng's. On the arena, Xiao Teng retreated in embarrassment and looked at Xiao Ye incredulously. How could this be possible? I have half a step of my strength, how could I be repelled by you? Xiao Teng shook his head crazily, denying all of this. Xiao Ye walked step by step on the arena and sneered, will the day after half a step be strong? Then you can see clearly. I, Xiao Ye, don't need the blood of a dragon or a snake. I can still suppress you with one hand. Boom. The burst of true qi in Xiao Ye's body was like a roaring river, with a powerful aura soaring into the sky, far exceeding Xiao Teng's half-step posthumously. Pop. Xiao Ye's palm, which was flowing with true energy, reached out and patted Xiao Teng, whose face was full of dullness. Bang! A terrifying force was unleashed on Xiao Teng, with golden eyes shining and his body pressed against the arena, with several broken ribs. Have you seen it clearly? I am already in the realm of heaven and earth. You, Xiao Teng, can only look up to me. Xiao Ye danced wildly with black hair and stomped towards the arena with a loud roar. Boom! The wide arena shook for a moment, then collapsed with a loud bang, and smoke and dust rose everywhere. Xiao Ye's foot seemed to stomp heavily on everyone's hearts, leaving them speechless. At this moment, in the central square of Qingyang town, the faces of over 10,000 villagers all showed a mixture of dullness and shock. Their mouths were wide open, and they even forgot to close them, allowing the cold air to pass through their hearts. Boom! The shaking arena collapsed, and the deafening noise struck them like a thunderbolt, making their hearts and minds tremble. The realm after tomorrow. And he is also a 15-year-old acquired martial artist. Looking at the hundreds of years of history in Qingyang town, is there such a young acquired warrior? No. In front of Xiao Ye, Xiao Teng and Shi Bo were not enough to see anything. This is definitely Xiaojia village. No, it's Qingyang town, a rare genius in a century. The villagers of Xiaojia village trembled with excitement. Hush! With this person's words, villagers were awakened one by one, followed by the sound of gasping for breath, echoing over the central square. Wow! The entire central square was boiling, with fiery gazes of young figures standing on the ruins of the arena. Xiao Yang shook his slightly dazed head. Why did Yi Er suddenly step into the realm of the afterlife? This huge surprise was hard for Xiao Yang to accept at the moment, but the fluctuations of true energy emanating from Xiao Ye were incredibly real. Old man Xiao, you'd better give me a reasonable explanation. Wu Shi's face was full of dullness, and he finally glared at Xiao Tianxiong with anger, wishing to eat him. He learned from Xiao Tianxiong that Xiao Teng had broken through to the heavenly realm half a step later, which made Wu Meyer give up Xiao Ye and switch to personally posting to Xiao Teng. Just the thought of rejecting a 15-year-old genius in the postnatal realm made me feel like a knife twisting in my heart. Xiao Tianxiong opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word. Xiao Ye's performance is amazing. Whether it's the fierce tiger fist or reaching the acquired realm at the age of 15, it's beyond the reach of his peers in Qingyang town. No, I have to ask Mayor to transfer the post to Xiao Ye for now. With Mayor's beauty, I don't believe Xiao Ye won't be interested. Wu Shi pondered for a moment and made up his mind. Old Stone, is it wrong for me to do this? Suddenly, Wu Shi blushed. After all, he is the village chief of Wujia village and a respected elder. Such disregard for his old face inevitably makes him feel a bit embarrassed. Ha! Where's Mr. Shi? Seeing no response, Wu Shi looked aside and found that Shi Zhan was nowhere to be found. Xiao Tianxiong's expression froze as he pointed in the direction of Xiao Ye in a daze. It seems that old Shi is pulling his granddaughter to find Xiao Ye. What? Wu Shi glared. This old immortal, his granddaughter is only 13 years old. Is he planning to let Xiao Ye marry his 13-year-old granddaughter? In Qingyang town, a 13-year-old girl is still underage and has not reached the age to participate in the marriage election. No way. This old immortal is too cunning, I must stop him. Xiao Ye is my grandson. Law. After speaking, Wu Shi rushed out like a gust of wind, leaving Xiao Tianxiong with a twitching mouth. Is this going to stage a big battle for a granddaughter-in-law? End of this chapter.